There. Nope. Yep.
Hello.
There we
go.
It was you the whole fucking time.
But I don't know how. It should.
Send around a message. Tell them it was us. We're stupid. Yep. Chris said it's working now.
Yeah. Hey, folks. We're waiting. Apparently, the technical difficulties was our fault. And once our guest gets back, and I apologize, everybody will be able to hear us. I don't know why it was our fault, Katie. We're live, but we're not recording it.
And Chris messaged me and he's like, can't hear y'all. So I was like, oh, it's us.
Yeah.
Because we asked Darren Watson how cold it was up there and he never responded.
Yeah, Darren, how cold is it up there?
He usually responds really quickly. And
which is weird. I didn't change anything. None of the presets were changed.
Maybe the elf did it. It was Sparkle.
Fucking elves.
She was in here messing with shit the other day.
Goddamn elves.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I had a candy cane emergency.
That doesn't sound like that much of an emergency.
Well, someone bought a candy cane yard for someone else. And she was panicking because she couldn't remember what day she had booked it for. She thought it was today, and they're home today. Anyways, we're all good. It's Thursday.
It was 29 this morning for Darren.
Ooh.
Wait till Thursday, Darren.
For him, it'll be sooner.
Oh, is it going from that way?
Yeah, I think they're getting it like today or tomorrow.
It's going to get colder, Darren. It's going to get colder.
But it looks like all the snow and stuff is going to go north of us and then go east.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, there's 7 people in here now. Now that they can hear us, I guess it's...
Did you send around a message?
I did. He read it.
Telling him it was us.
It was
all
us.
you the whole time.
It was
because it wasn't me or Robert.
No,
You're the one
was
that
me.
runs the board. It's all you.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Chris says his show's 11 people.
He can hear us now. I think
I can hear you.
I'm
It
sorry.
was 100% James's fault.
Okay, no, it wasn't.
I love when things.
It was
are his
partially
fault. Can we
StreamYard's fault because they changed my settings, even though I never changed my settings.
I
Like
do-
literally the thing he was telling you to go check when you
I love when it's.
All right.
Okay,
Let's do
so
this.
we're just like we'll leave mine here and we'll do all of our sponsor stuff. All right, we'll start recording and we'll start the show. We're already live. People are watching us be idiots. Here we go. Everybody ready? There we go. Welcome to episode 146 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast, along with technical difficulties.
I thought when you said people are just watching us be idiots, my first thought was, how is that different than any other week that we do this podcast?
Yeah.
They should all know this by now. That's why they love us.
Love's a strong word.
Well, they love
They
me.
got that.
They tolerate you.
Most of them are probably sitting on the toilet right now.
They tolerate
They're
you.
using this as their YouTube time.
They love me. They love me. They really love me.
Let's do our sponsors real quick, and then we will get into everything. So, Katie, go.
If you are looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herbst Reptile show near you. Visit lsreptileracks.com to reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks and place your order today.
Yeah, and signs and hides and all sorts of cool PVC related items.
But if you're coming to a Herbst Reptile show, you're not going to get one until the new year.
Yeah. Well, there's only one more reptile. No,
We don't have any in
there are
December.
none. That's true.
Because Slidell was this past weekend.
That is true. Also, a shout out to our
2
friends over at Wiregrass Exotics in southeast Alabama. I almost said west, and that's definitely not where they're at. They're in Ozark. My God, my brain's not working tonight.
Drink some more coffee. It'll be okay.
Yep, I'm still asleep. They're over in Ozark. Check them out. They got all your feeder needs. And then Herbst. Let's do our Herbst stuff real quick. I've even got that pulled up. Like we said, the next show is not till January 14th and 15th in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. You won't be able to get any racks or cages from Robert there. Just a heads up, because he's not driving to Oklahoma.
No.
But he will be in Longview, Texas, January 21st, 22nd. So if you were in that area, then the big show, Conroe, January 28th, 29th. Come out. Check out the big show in Conroe on the 20th, 29th. Bring me a birthday present. Just saying it's my birthday. Feel free to bring me a birthday present. Shameless plug. Corpus Christi, February 25th, 26th. New Orleans, March 4th and 5th. Bryan College Station, March 11th, 12th. Waco, Texas, March 25th and 26th. And then back into Slidell, April 1st and 2nd. That's great. April Fool's Day, you'll have a show. That'll
Awesome.
be fun. But it is Slidell.
Easter this year?
When's Easter?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Let me get those.
Say, I
dates
can
on
tell
that.
you.
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's like 2 weekends later in April.
2023. It is April 9th.
No, you were good.
Okay, good.
There's not one on Easter.
Cool.
Excellent.
No Bunny Day.
We have a 4-day weekend that weekend. I know that we're on Christmas break, and I'm already like,
You are really planning ahead, aren't you?
we have a 4-day
It
weekend
is.
that
We
weekend.
got to get through Christmas break first. I do want to do our giveaway real quick. before we get too far into this, we remember we're doing a giveaway each week in December. Thanks to our friends over at Colossal Constrictors, we are giving away an infrared temp gun. We had a winner last week. This week we had 24 more people enter. All you have to do is go on to our weekly questions and comment, and you're entered in. So let me go to our net random number generator and see who won. It was, God, I don't want him to win. I don't want him to win. He didn't get eaten by a bear. He doesn't deserve to win. Our buddy Max Hicks.
I'll send it to Max.
Our buddy Max Hicks won.
Yay!
He won. So way to go, Max. Although, last time it got really cold, he could probably use a temp gun. So maybe he won't.
I think all of us could.
Speaking of temp guns, well, we'll get into that stuff later about being cold, because we'll talk about getting ready for the cold, because it's coming.
It's coming.
Winter's coming. But let's go with our guest, Ryan McVeigh. It's just Ryan McVeigh. Even though I said everybody Eric will be here, it's just Ryan. So we got the lesson of two.
I mean, we still like him too.
Yeah, he's all right, I guess.
She was gonna come and then couldn't find another pair of headphones, so she couldn't hear.
A tale as old as time.
I know.
And so we got Ryan McVeigh of VivTech Products. How's it going, Ryan?
It's going all right, man. How are you guys doing?
Great. We've been trying to get you on here forever. You are a busy person.
I'm glad the vein in your head's not popping out anymore from our technical difficulties.
That's true. I do feel bad after watching Ryan sit there trying to figure out.
I told James, I was like, he's getting very angry at this entire situation.
I've got a lot of stuff hooked up here, and I'm like, I know this is right. What is going on?
It was all James.
So,
I'm glad I went live and people were like, oh, yeah, shit's not working. I'm like, oh, my bad.
I love when he's wrong. It's beautiful.
I wasn't wrong.
It never happens.
StreamYard was wrong. I was right.
I'm always wrong and he's always right. And I love when it's the other way around.
I'm never wrong. I'm just less right sometimes.
No.
Yeah, that works.
No.
Yeah.
Less
you were
right.
Wrong. And it was your fault. It's beautiful. Merry Christmas, everyone.
So before we get into all of that, I do want to get into, since the last time we had you on, there's so many new things with VivTech. So I definitely want to get into all that. But before we get there, I do want to talk about something that's about to affect, or started to affect some of us, which is the cold. We are about to get really, really cold here. The projecting, and again, I get some of y'all are from like Canada and North, and when we say cold, it's not the same thing for you. But we are going to get into like the teens.
The wind chill is single digits, almost at zero. Is what they're predicting
on Thursday, right?
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Friday is going to be the bad day. It's going to be like 40-mile-an-hour winds, and like
the high is 25.
Yeah,
that's bad for you guys.
And they're all saying all the weather people are saying that is a very conservative estimate. It's likely to be much lower.
Fuck. Okay, so it's going to be really cold.
They've dropped it to 19 now.
I was just going to say, when I checked it earlier, it was less than 20.
But it's
originally it was.
But it's going to be dry, right? Originally they were we could have snow on Christmas, but right now it's dry.
No, not here. Now other places around us are getting the precipitation,
and then it's going to be like that through Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys don't have to drive very far for Christmas.
I know.
I say we're going to drive all 2 minutes away.
House.
Yeah.
And who knows? We might ride our bikes. Well, maybe not.
No,
it's going to be cold. Maybe not.
Yeah, we're going to get -9. I think that's before the wind chill. So
that's so insane.
Well, see, it was funny. So Adam Wickens made a post earlier. He said he wants to put a snowblower in the back of his car and drive until someone asks him, what is that? I was like, come on down to Texas. And then someone commented, well, they shut down because it froze, yada, yada, and asked for government assistance. It's like, motherfucker, try months of triple-digit heat and then follow that up with hurricanes and then get back to me.
Yeah.
We're not prepared for cold.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is we're not.
I love when people try to hate on Texas.
Yeah.
Nope.
I mean, but that's anywhere in the South, though, with the ice. They did the same thing to us because we were in Louisiana with the ice storm. Like, James and I were literally frozen in our house for 2 days.
That's the fucking ball python breeder, how it worked out for him talking shit about Texas.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yay.
Did you find she found some headphones? I liked who was it? Where was it at? Darren Watson said VivTech needs to make earbuds.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, go get on that one.
That's funny.
And they connect all to the Bluetooth stuff. But so yeah, just anybody out there hating. We don't have snow plows. We don't know what that is.
Yeah.
We have some salt. We don't have any of that stuff. So
yeah.
Luckily, it is going to be a dry cold this time.
I'm okay with that.
Oh no, I got scared. Right? Like, it's going to snow. I'm like, yeah, but snow can turn into ice, and I don't want to see ice again.
Not for a while.
Yeah. Good thing you can do too if you want to like build up some heat in your house, because even though it's so we're a little bit more used to the cold. It still can have a lot of bad effects and cause power outages and stuff like that. So before the temperature drops, start boiling a lot of water in your house. Just put pots of water on every burner and just start them boiling. If you increase the humidity in your house, then you can increase the amount of energy that the air can hold. So it'll stay warmer longer if there's a power outage or anything happens.
How do you know that?
Because he lives in the fucking frozen north.
my actual background is in HVAC and like thermodynamics. So
very cool.
We have so many books about it right now.
That sounded like
I have a
like someone was upset about the amount of books in their house.
I have a friend that used to work for Alvin Police Department, grew up in Santa Fe with me. His wife, who also worked with me at Santa Fe PD, is from Buffalo, New York, and she talked him into moving up there about 5 years ago.
Like that.
And they're like 12 miles from the Canadian border. And he commented earlier on one of those posts about letting your pipes drip. And he's like, yeah, if we just let your faucet drip, he's like, if we did that up here, it would still freeze. We have to leave the water running in order for it to work.
I actually wondered about that with us Friday because it's not going to get above freezing.
Oh, I'm letting mine drip
like ours
because I'm not having a repeat of 2021.
Ours need to be a heavy drip. I'm concerned.
I was today talking to a friend of mine that's a contractor, and he's like going out buying sheetrock already. He's already been to Home Depot and bought like 5 bunks of sheetrock and had them delivered. Jeez. He's like, because I know next week it's going to be nothing but sheetrock jobs.
You know what we do have? We have a whole bunch of felt, or fleece, or felt, whatever the fabric is you have down there.
Fleece.
We can wrap our pipes in that because I didn't get any stuff, but we can wrap our outside things.
Just the outside,
the 2 spigots.
I have some flex watt, extra flex watt.
That's true.
There you go.
That's actually what it's for.
I have a little bit of that.
There you go.
I have a bunch of the heat cable too, just laying around.
Flex watt's the stuff they use in the heat tape.
Oh, okay,
The original reason.
I didn't know it's called flex watt.
So like heat cable that we use, a lot of people use in their cages and stuff. The heat cable that was originally based off the stuff they used to wrap pipes.
Nice.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Jamie with Pico Pythons asked, I think, where do you find the weekly questions? That's over on our Facebook page. Go to the Reptile Gumbo podcast on Facebook. You'll find our weekly questions. And then you can answer and
then I hope you win shit because your comment makes me laugh.
Everybody likes to win shit.
I know.
The Herp Room said after the freeze here in Texas, I think it's going to happen every winter. Shut your mouth.
That's what it feels like.
Which is weird. Like, it's very weird. I don't know if people can understand. I don't know. 2 months ago, it was 100 and something degrees.
Shit, the high on Thursday is like 74.
Yeah, it's like a 50 something or 60 degree temperature.
It's a very strong chance that this may be the biggest drop in temperature in like Houston.
Our friends over at Sea Anal Side Exotics said that we don't have pipe insulation. No, we had pipe insulation stores, but the problem is we don't have enough for everyone.
And I guarantee you they're already out, even though someone's wife told them 3 days ago to wrap the pipes.
We didn't freeze last.
Oh, they've been out for 2 days.
Someone's wife told him 3 days ago, wrap the pipes. That's your job.
I've been told I don't have to wrap the pipe because you take a pill.
Damn.
You're about to die on this podcast, and now someone in the government is listening. I cannot believe you just said that to me.
My coffee.
I'm going to put laxative in your coffee the next time I make it.
Luckily, I have those little... they're kind of squarish things that go over your pipe.
Yeah.
Over your spigot, and it has the thing that goes the
screws on there.
I have, it's like a lanyard.
Yeah.
Pull it tight. I have 2 of those that I used last year and was like, oh, maybe I'll save these for next year. And I actually did.
Well, my house in Louisiana has everything.
Yeah.
And it's beautifully done, and I'm sure my dad has checked it like 4 times.
I'm sure.
I'm gonna slightly embarrass my father-in-law here. No, this is everyone needs to hear this in case they make this mistake. So anybody that hadn't noticed for a while, our large tortoises are still in Louisiana at our house that has a yard, because in Texas they don't believe in building yards.
Well, in these neighborhoods,
yeah,
they don't.
Yeah, there's absolutely no yard. So my tortoises are still over there, and they made it through the freeze 2 years ago now.
And this sweet man literally worries day and night about these tortoises.
I'm telling my story. Shut your mouth. Don't hit me.
You need to respect your wife, James.
We're going to
get another bad review.
That is true. I haven't had a bad review about insulting my wife in a while.
That's right.
But they made it through the freeze, and inside their concrete barn or their bunker was like 79 degrees the whole way through, ice covering and everything. And he messaged me the other day. He woke up and goes, it's 50 degrees in the barn. I'm like, I don't know how it's 50 degrees in the barn. He even had to replace the radiator heater because, the radiator heater won't turn on. I was like, all right, go buy a new one, and we'll put a new radiator heater in there. And then it still wasn't working, so I had a friend of mine go over and check it out. And it's a simple mistake. Luckily, it was an easy fix, but I want everybody to understand this. in the barn, I have a thermostat with a probe in the middle of the barn. The heater's on one side. But I'd also had him recently add some dome ceramic heat emitters in there. And the probe to the thermostat was sitting on the metal dome. So it was reading 100 and something degrees and not turning the heater on. Nothing was broken. He just had set the probe for the dome on, or for the thermostat on the dome.
But then I got the sweetest message from him that talked about how your friend. Let me find the message. It's so sweet.
Just so the moral of the story is, if something is wrong, check the simple things first. Like maybe it's the host of the podcast who didn't turn the right volume on, and that's why your guests can't hear it. Or maybe you put the probe of your thermostat onto a heating source.
He said he's feeling a whole lot better today because he was so worried he was doing something wrong and your tortoises were going to get sick while he was watching them.
You can't kill that one. He's an asshole.
But then that's so true.
Some of those guys live out of spite.
And then he said that you and her are both awesome reptile people, and that the three of us collectively have a lot more insight and intelligence than so many so-called experts out there.
Yeah.
He's so
it is very
sweet.
tricky troubleshooting reptile things from 4 hours away.
He's such a sweet man.
But it's now like 84 degrees in the barn, and they're great. So the tortoises will make it through the winter.
They're living their best life.
I was trying to think.
I like 84.
I'm not making it 84 in the house.
Yeah, my house is 68 year round.
Never, not once will it ever be that hot in my house.
No. Not unless the power's out.
Yeah, power's out in the summertime.
I got coffee all over myself.
Dude, you got a hole in your lip?
You know what? It's this cup that I'm not used to drinking because you stole it and I never get to use it.
Stop your bitching.
Anyways.
Did he just blame you for spilling coffee on himself?
So
I did. See, you've got to be talented to do that.
See, the problem is I took him to the zoo today with lots of other people and made him socialize a lot today.
I drove.
And you did a great job.
I went there with 4 little kids.
Yes.
And 2 more adults. And I had to socialize today.
You
and I was
did.
not.
But then I let you take a nap.
No, I didn't take a nap. I passed out.
We're on Christmas break.
That's napping.
Naps happen like all the time. It's beautiful.
Katie woke me up at 6:30 and she goes, the alarm went off for 6:30. And my brain's like, why? And she goes, the podcast.
Did.
And I
He
jumped.
goes, why are you waking me up? I said, because the podcast starts in 30 minutes.
Because it threw me off. It's 6:30 and it's dark in the room. It's dark outside. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then I moved.
Yep.
C Anal Side Exotics said, how much snow did you get in the big freeze? Not much snow. It was ice.
Yeah, we got
ice.
Maybe like an inch of snow, but there was ice under that snow.
It snowed, and that was great. It was wonderful. And then it rained, and then it froze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was what caused all the problems.
Our vehicles were frozen to our driveway.
Well, see, at least there y'all have like stuff. You're
But
prepared.
you're prepared for that weather.
We had like a couple
We're
of days
not.
to prepare for the fact that we were going to be frozen in for 3 days. We couldn't leave our neighborhood for 3 days because our neighborhood was on an incline and we couldn't get to the red light or else we'd just slide back down.
Yeah, we had to walk to the store
Uphill.
both ways.
Both ways.
It actually was.
If I would have had a camera like I do now, cameras all around my house like I do now, you would have gotten to see me do the backwards running slip, trying not to fall on your ass. And I
Let's
did.
say because yours is
and then
huge slope.
slid all the way down my driveway.
Your driveway is pretty
super
steep.
slow. Like, well, this
Sideways.
is gonna fuck my pants up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to do the
driveway is
sideways shuffle
ridiculous.
of ice.
Oh, look, there's
Yes.
Corey Martin. Hey, Corey. So, yeah, just the whole
Corey's driveway, if it was covered
Oh.
in ice, it would be like the luge, man.
Nice.
That thing is like a freaking
Worse than yours?
45-degree angle.
If it ices over again, I'm totally coming to your house to like
just slide.
use a cardboard box and slide down your driveway.
Okay.
Take a 1 second slide.
Hell yeah, it's fine. It's worth it. I don't need much more.
You'd end up like down the street, though.
It's okay.
Or did you just curse ice on us again?
No,
You don't get talking right
I did
anymore.
not.
So when I come down in February, I should bring you guys sleds.
Yes.
I swear to God, if you bring
Garbage can
sleds.
lids.
If you bring sleds and then ice is over, I'm gonna kill you, Ryan McVeigh.
I told the best joke today,
No.
and James revoked my privileges of speaking for the rest of the day. You can see how well that worked
Do I
out.
have to hear this again?
It doesn't work. Shush. Don't even.
It does not. Obviously, it doesn't work. I'm still running my mouth.
Are you about to tell the joke? Please don't. Ryan,
But I want to.
but it's Erica and Ryan. They don't want to
But
hear that
Erica
joke.
will think it's funny.
Erica does.
Erica thinks puns are funny.
My biggest
Those are
fear
hilarious.
is being trapped in a small room with Santa because I have claustrophobia.
I got one for you.
Little boy blue.
If
It's so funny.
bluebirds have blue babies, and blackbirds have black babies, what kind of bird has no babies? A swallow.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a funny joke, Katie.
Jesus.
That's a much funnier joke.
Because it has just enough to be dirty.
So my
Without
kid
being
thought I
dirty.
was going to make like a fat joke about Santa when I started the joke. She was like, Mama, I could not believe that you were fixing to go there. I was like, because I wasn't.
So, anyways, everybody get prepared for the cold. Have an idea. Have a plan. Have some extra space heaters. Have a generator, which my generator now works. I had somebody work on it yesterday. So
Yay.
get a generator. They're amazing things. Robert doesn't have one, so he'll come in and hang out here if it gets cold.
Mhm.
I do, but I don't.
Just a crank. You have to go out there and crank a handle.
Yeah, I just have to roll on a treadmill, which means I can
You're
last
screwed.
for about 30 seconds.
I'd say put Otis out there, but that's not going to happen either.
No.
So prepare for the cold.
You can borrow Millie.
Especially if you have outside animals. Please bring them in or have another plan for it. Like Robert had a friend who has a box turtle, which yes, they're native to here and they can deal with the cold. But if you have a box turtle in the backyard, don't plan for it to know how to take care of itself. Go ahead and bring it inside or anything else like that. Or dogs. Fuck dogs. I can't imagine how many people left dogs out during the ice.
Yeah, he actually called me from Home Depot. All right, I'm looking at these totes. I'm like, just get a fucking tote.
Just a tote. Just get a tote
It
and put your
doesn't
turtle
matter.
in. You're fine.
Yeah. What does it need? More height or more length?
You know what? At least he was.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, super concerned
100%.
about
And
his box turtle.
he wanted it to be
Mhm.
comfortable while it was. The rest of us are like, screw it. You're staying here for 3 days. Let's go.
My dad says everyone ready for falling iguanas.
Yeah.
That's how they do the weather in Miami.
Yep.
It's just falling iguana weather. All right. Let's get to this question, one of these questions, and then we'll get to VivTech stuff because I want to get into VivTech stuff. But so this one was kind of related. So I asked Ryan a question for this week, but I know we had asked before how everybody feels about a governing agency in reptile hobby. So I took that question and I tweaked it and I said, if the reptile hobby had regulations and standards, what would be some that people would like to see? Because there are a lot of folks like, I don't want the government involved. And I get it. But also people are fucking stupid. And at some point the government's going to get involved anyways, whether you want to or not.
Yeah. That's the whole thing is it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So if we just sit around like, I don't want any, neither do I, but it's going to happen at some point.
But I would like for us to be the voice before someone else is our voice.
I'd like to be the one writing it.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want someone who has never even seen a lizard or a snake go, all right, no one can have them. So we went to the zoo today with my daughter's friends and one of her friend's parents. And I walked around the reptile house and explained a bunch of stuff to them.
Because at that point, the kids did not give.
They were dead. But he was talking about. He said something about the released pets in Florida, and then I informed him. Most of the Burmese pythons there are not released pets. They are the happening of a hurricane in 1992. If it was released pets, we would not have this problem. But that's that narrative that gets spread by non-reptile people and by the news.
Thank you.
Sure, on a podcast, Katie.
So sorry.
But
Not really.
but that's the kind of stuff that they get their information from non-reptile people, and we're always having to correct that it's not us. We didn't do it. It's not the people that are owning the animal that did that. It's much like and my dad's in the thing. It's much like gun people. It's not the people that follow the laws with guns that cause the issues with guns.
That's right.
So, and they have a lot more money to try and fight laws and stuff than we do.
They actually have to sign up too, but they don't sign up for NRA.
Yeah. But
That's a really loud knuckle clack. Sorry.
was that your knuckle?
I didn't know what that was. I felt like you hit something on a table.
Cracking her knuckles.
Goo.
You may want to get that
Getting
checked
ready
out.
for when I mouth off.
I mean, James already got smacked, so why not just add to it? Robert's too far away, so
And I did
Robert
hear
hasn't
from
done
the other
anything to
room.
deserve
the
being
whole,
smacked.
"Ooh, I'm right. Yeah, I heard that.
I didn't say I was right. I just said I was less. Less
less
right.
wrong.
Yeah, I heard
Less
it from
right.
the other room.
Never wrong. Just
He
less
just wanted to make sure you heard it.
Yeah, Garrett Hartle actually made him a shirt that says it.
No, I made Garrett a shirt.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Other way around.
Nice.
I'm not mad at you now, Garrett.
So some of these regulations. Amanda Reddy, our friend Amanda Reddy, they breed panther chameleons. Said age or size requirements for babies before they can be sold. Which, as someone who sells chameleons, I totally get that because we've talked about before. We killed 2 baby chameleons because we bought them way too young. And there are a lot of things that are sold way too young. So I wish people would, you have to make sure they're eating before you sell the damn thing too.
Yeah.
That's another one. But we talked about that with the person that was selling chameleon eggs, just the egg, and then you raise the egg, and that's blows my freaking mind.
It's a real thing, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, it is. We've seen it, and every time I see it, I'm like, I can't imagine the person that goes, that's a good idea. I'm gonna buy that egg. Although, like I said before, Katie saw someone online who was selling leopard tortoise eggs through the mail.
I need you to not sound so judgy right now.
You were gonna buy an egg.
I was.
It's
And
it's like $20 or $25 instead of however $100 or whatever.
Oh my God, you may as well just take a chicken egg and shake it and be like, here. It's the same kind of investment.
I can buy and hatch quail eggs.
See?
But see, no, but see,
Why
the
would you
difference,
just get quail?
but see, the difference is
Because you get
birds
quail
turn.
and then you breed the quail. You don't buy
Well,
the chicken baby syndrome egg.
Well, and like birds are different. They can turn in an egg, whereas reptiles drown.
Ryan, I feel you. We have a connection on this.
Oh, right, but like
No.
James and Erica.
there are ways you could ship it that it would be able to turn and move and not flip upside down. And
I think it could be
Still
worth
With
it.
FedEx, how?
you take
Touche.
you take those risks. You know
You seriously watch somebody flip a box in the air and then
was-
like drop kick it.
that was UPS.
Oh, that was UPS.
FedEx would
difference.
never
That was
do
back when they
that.
did that. Yeah.
See, this is why.
Who was it that had the gorilla that would like move your luggage for you? That old airline commercial?
My God, you just aged yourself. I don't know who that is, but that was an ancient commercial.
You know what I'm talking about that?
Yeah, that
It
was forever
like-
ago.
Yes. I'm gonna need to Google that.
My God.
That's just what popped in my head. Right.
So my dad commented, he said, it's a very slippery slope. Once the hobby opens itself up for regulation from within, you risk even more regulations from the outside entities that have zero knowledge on the subject at hand, which we mentioned. Yes, that is a fear, but they're already trying.
American Tourister.
And there's
Oh, I got
there's this like everybody's missing something when it comes to the regulation stuff, and that's a couple huge things. Like one, so everybody likes to complain that the vets don't know anything and that veterinarians don't know what they're doing, or stop, I know, or that like the biologists don't know what they're doing, or the zoos don't know what they're doing, and we know better about keeping certain animals, and there is value in our anecdotal experiences. But to negate all the other communities of people that work with these animals and their experiences and the science behind a lot of it is insane. So unfortunately, this can be an argument we have on whether we want regulation or not, but it's a stupid argument because there isn't a not. We're going to be regulated. And there's 2 studies that have come out that shows that most rack situations are unethical for keeping most snakes. And there's reasons for it, and you can say that it's not true, that they ball pythons do better in racks or whatever argument anyone wants to make. But the only people making arguments against that are people who profit from using them, which makes your argument not really as good if you have other scientific organizations using ethical peer-reviewed studies to show that what you're doing could be done better, and then your argument is no. Like it's not really gonna get us real far.
That's
and then
a
on
third
top
grade
of it,
argument right there.
right? Like, well, and then here's another one. I'm working right now with a lot of zoos because the AZA just mandated that by I think by 2024 or by mid 2024, every animal in the zoo, mammal, fish, reptile, bird, does not matter, has to have access to outdoor sunlight or ultraviolet light. Period.
Oh wow!
All year round, and that's because of what we talk about when we're talking about like the VivTech lighting and UVA and serotonin development in their brains and natural behaviors and how they see and utilize their world. Like huge chunks of how they naturally live their life are within that, and it's just there's so much science showing that now organizations like the AZA aren't ignoring it anymore. And if big organizations like that are known for animal care and husbandry, and then you have scientific and biological organizations showing animal ethics not really working for racks, and the UK bans the use of racks and this stuff is going to start coming to us, and we're not going to have much of an argument for it other than, well, I stuck the snake in there and it didn't die.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to work anymore. And that's where my push in asking like kind of what do people think about self-regulation? What does it look like? Everybody gets upset and wants to put their foot down and say, no, we're not doing nothing. And that's fine. But the other side's not doing that. They're just going to keep coming. And the more we don't care and we think that we can protect ourselves, the worse off we're going to be, especially if we just keep arguing within ourselves. So realistically, everybody needs to kind of understand, like, what are we willing to do about this? Because if we don't do anything, we're going to lose everything.
Part of it is because we still see ourselves as the outcasts, the bikers, and all that stuff out of like the pet industry, which we're not. I don't know about you, but I'm not riding on a Harley, and I definitely don't look like an outlaw. And most of the reptile people I know don't, that are actually all for this. So part of it is we also have to re-identify ourselves too as a community.
Yeah. We deal with it in the hunting, and hunting hobby as well. We're really good at fighting with one another.
Yep.
But we're not good at fighting against the people who are trying to take our rights away.
And coming together to do that as a collective.
Yes. I mean, it's hunting season right now, so there's lots and lots of posts in all the hunting groups. And God, let a guy shoot a 2.5-year-old deer. Let a guy shoot a 2.5-year-old buck and post it, and then all these people jumping down his throat. Let a guy shoot a deer on a high fence ranch. And it's nothing but other hunters jumping down their throat because they don't do it the way that I do it. And I see the same thing in the reptile hobby. Earlier in one of the colubrid groups, somebody posted this meme about ball pythons are nothing but a pyramid scheme. And there's like 100 comments on there just trashing ball pythons and ball python keepers. They're not wrong, but we need to be directing that energy outside of our hobby towards the people who are trying to hurt us, not inside at ourselves.
Yeah, and when corn snakes were the big morph thing, they were the pyramid scheme. And when leopard geckos were the big morph thing, they were the next big investment thing. It's always going to be something, and it's not really that it's a pyramid scheme. It's that I think it's kind of funny for the reptile community. We sell morph animals as investments and then convince people that they should breed as well and become our competition. And then we get mad when everything's oversaturated. Versus like the bird hobby, which convinces you to buy this $10,000 macaw because it's pretty, it lives a long time, and it's smart and cool. Not telling you how awful they are to keep, but like the people pay for that not because it's going to be a breeding investment, but the way that the reptile mentality has been is the only reason you want these animals is to make more and make money.
Yeah, it's literally a pyramid scheme.
I agree.
Or Pokemon cards.
Old Pokemon cards. Just going through some more of these regulations. Jason Miloradovich said no more bite or feeding pictures or videos, or randomly claiming that a ball python tried to strangle you. That's aimed at certain people, but yes,
feeding videos are bad. Like, not a fan of feeding videos. Live feeding videos, if you avoid it. I mean, not even a big thing. Like even frozen thawed, if you don't have to. Like, there's just some people that don't want to see it. So why?
We all know they eat. Like, there's no reason.
And then every time you have that somebody post one, and people are like, "Bro, this is not good for the hobby." There's always these guys. Well, it's natural. They have to eat. If you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't keep reptiles. Oh fuck!
You post pictures of yourself eating?
Right.
They probably do. They are probably those people.
And unfortunately, there is actual evidence that some of those feeding videos are put up on YouTube and things like that because they're highly monetized, because there is a fetish that goes with that.
I'm sure there is.
Like, why would we be wanting? Why are you looking at me like that? Yes, I do those things.
Reinhard fetish is like, wait, what?
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
What's this fetish?
Shit.
Right?
This is why she feeds all the snakes. Got it.
All right, that goes right up there.
Ron's like, I'm into normal things like feet, and she just wants to feed snakes.
That's
Real
batting
weird.
1,000 a night.
Real weird.
You are sleeping on that couch.
Hopefully it's comfy.
It is.
That's not a threat at my house.
That's
My
James
couch-
falls
all the time.
James falls asleep on the couch almost every day.
It's a twin day bed thing. It's super comfortable.
It really is.
Yeah.
Robert's couch claims victims every time anybody goes to their house.
Yes, it does.
That's it. Wait a second. People beat dick while watching their snakes eat. You know what?
Yes!
Guarantee you it happens.
I can promise there's
Someone somewhere.
There's some.
Sam is done. He's like, nope, this is
There's some ball.
my limit.
There's some ball python bro out there like, oh man, This shit is amazing.
Wrap it up, baby.
Squeeze harder. Squeeze harder.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Follow the whole thing.
Ryan!
Oh God.
Jesus.
So Sean Gray, he said, and he said, too many regulations already. We don't need any more oversight at this point. The community eventually weeds out the bad seeds, and who would decide and enforce these regulations? Egos get involved, and it all goes to shit. So, I understand, but I don't think the hobby always weeds out the bad. Eventually, the bad will weed out the hobby because they will end up making regulations because of the bad. And it doesn't take a lot of bad. It just takes a couple of loud ones.
Well, and the other thing too is, and this drives me nuts, and kind of why this question got brought up is there is so much talk at every freaking level of this industry about what we can do to police ourselves, what's going to make a change, how we can fund USARC better, how we can fight back better. And every single time I come up with a conversation about how we could regulate or how we could create standards, it always, it comes down to the lowest common denominator, always, which like when it comes to like racks, it's always ball pythons and do great in racks. Well, yeah, but we can't argue about the one species that does really good in racks and the other 4 maybe fossorial snakes that would be fine versus the all other ones that could use better lighting and all this other stuff and we could do better for, but like it's no one wants to find in the middle. They just kind of look at it like if we bring up regulation, it means we're putting crazy laws down on everybody. And it doesn't have to be that. Like what I would like to see is more unanimous standards for an industrial breeding facility who's going to have different types of setups and for their animals, for their breeders, for the babies as they eat. They're also not going to be long-term there. And then people who are like a hobbyist breeder and what standards they would have, as well as standards for just like the entry-level person that has one animal, or has a couple, or has it as pets as a hobby. So like there's a guy I follow on Instagram, the Iowa dairy farmer. He's I watch that guy because I try to follow other industries where they deal with animal rights and animal issues, and dairy farming is 100% one that they have just as big a fight as we do. Theirs is way bigger.
I love PETA's cartoons where they show people sucking on the teat of a cow and go, look how gross that is. I'm like, can you get out of the way? My milk is dry, or my cereal's dry. I need some.
Exactly. Like, so, but like that's, but like, so there, when you're thinking about the cattle industry, let's say even the dairy or beef, let's say beef industry, like there's the industrial farming of it where there's a lot of ethical things that are maybe some lines that are maybe blurred, but it's because of meeting high demand. And we understand that. And we try and keep those as ethical as possible while still being able to meet demand. I see that. But at the same time, you don't see that. Like nobody's doing the behind the scenes tour of their corporate beef plants. But then when we have the industry side, we take these guys that are breeding huge facilities full of drawers and just pop open drawers and show snakes and make that look like the standard of how we care for those animals. Yeah. But you don't see that. Like, and then then you've got this guy like the Iowa dairy farmer who is a smaller farmer, still a big farm, but smaller. That'd be your hobbyist guy who shows how his animals get more space, how everything runs in the facility, how they get checkups and things like that. That's the kind of stuff we want to see on YouTube, is that kind of mentality of showing everything on a scale that's not 2 pets, but it's not an industrial in and out type facility. It's not something where you're making as many ethical you're having to make as many ethical decisions based on supply and demand. And I think that would be one thing that would be massively beneficial to our industry in general, is just to really start differentiating how we look at those things and what parts of our industry we allow people to see.
Well, yeah, because the Iowa dairy farmer is fighting against the stereotypes from like Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, how everybody sees the meat industry, and PETA and stuff. We don't have as much, unfortunately, kind of going with us. We still have a lot of bad information going around that we as a hobby still circulate. You got to get rid of the old herp lure, unfortunately, I think, before we can really start to self-regulate. And part of that is that you have to keep the most snakes, the most dangerous snakes and things like that. We have to stop identifying ourselves as our animals that we're keeping or with our animals that we're keeping, and actually start identifying ourselves as keepers like people would do, like in a zoo or something like that, like a curator.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah. I mean, so Darren had one. He said he also wishes if standards were set, it would be nationwide, and that he would love to be able to responsibly own venomous without having to move to another state.
Bless you.
Because that is the venomous laws are one of the weirdest things when you really look at them across the country, because they're not the same state to state, and some of them are non-existent in states, and some of them it's crazy what you can and cannot own.
We talked about that a little at the zoo today.
Yeah, like in some states you can't own a copperhead, but you can go get a king cobra.
Yep.
Like that's a weird thing.
Well, in Texas, you have to have a permit for a copperhead, but not for a king.
Not for a king cobra.
In Niles, Illinois, just straight down the road from us, you can own just about any reptile as long as it's not poisonous or a bearded dragon. Love to know why a bearded dragon got added on there, but
Those wild populations of bearded dragons roaming the north.
Yeah. Well,
They're
Alvin,
really cold
the next
resistant.
town over from us, Alvin, all reptiles are outlawed.
All exotics.
All exotics, period, are
Ooh.
outlawed. Birds, reptiles, everything.
I mean, no one follows that law, but it's there.
There's
Like-
there's a city in central Wisconsin. Sharks and cephalopods are banned.
oh, I remember we were talking about this.
Yeah,
We're
my
like,
friend
what
Dawn
did y'all
lives
do?
there. And she's a huge Aquarius, and she's got like 300-gallon tanks. Wants to do all this cool stuff like cuttlefish, and she can't have cuttlefish or like cat sharks because
Fuck my shark and octopus
wanna know
farm will not
weird.
work there.
Wow.
exactly.
I want to know what they did, though.
They are
that-
obviously going to get into the invasive freshwater, ice cold waterways.
Someone
Uh-huh.
liked watching their cephalopod too much.
Your dad asked, is that because copperheads are native? Yes.
Yeah.
In Texas, you have to have a permit for native, native venomous, native anything, honestly. And there are some controlled exotics. King cobras might actually be on that list.
I hope so.
Large cats, though, are they?
But
We had-
literally, the permit is you go to Walmart and buy your permit where you buy your hunting license, and that's it.
it's a tag, right?
There's nothing to it. I mean, it's just a way that if they want to track it, they can.
Darren,
Because
No,
I-
it's
I
like
do
a
know-
bearing permit.
I do know
That's
people who have
good.
had their controlled exotic permit for years and years in a row, and then they didn't buy it for a couple of years, and the state's come and knocked on their door. Hey, we just want to make sure you're still in compliance because you haven't bought your permit in a couple of years. So
Darren wasn't a good point. Maybe they are afraid of Sharknado. That's what they're.
That franchise so much.
If they don't
Yeah.
have sharks there, they
Yeah.
can't cause a Sharknado. So, our friend Megan said, in a perfect world, an IQ test requirement before being allowed to keep animals. There's a lot of dumbasses bringing home iguanas. Yeah.
Before people breed themselves.
Yeah, we can't really stop people from even breeding stupidity. I don't know that an IQ test to get a pet's going to help.
Our friend Drew Schultz over at the Learning Zoo said licenses required to breed certain species, retics, iguanas, sulcatas, anything that has lots of babies, it gets big, and a yearly quota for each license holder, which I think would actually be an amazing thing. The overproduction of certain species has led to a lot of substandard husbandry, poor welfare, and certain species being dumped on rescues or sold to unqualified keepers when they get big. Same goes for importing shit like Nile monitors. We don't need more of them over here. 95% of the babies don't make it to their first year.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of that's regulation, but a lot of that's hard for us to regulate. Like obviously we don't go buy wild caught baby Niles. It's just hard. How do you stop those guys that do it? How do you get that information to those entry level people that see it and see $30 and think it's an easy one? I've had so many people like that come up to me at shows and be like, one guy had an iguana in a 9-inch deli and was like, yeah, a guy told me to come talk to you to put it in a 20 long. Dude, that thing needs like a 4 by 6 foot high by 3 foot deep built enclosure now.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guy was a carpenter. He's like, all right, so this guy's eyes got all big, and we talked for a bit, and whatever. But that was just somebody to show some scumbag telling people that works. And I don't know, we got to weed that stuff out, but it's hard. It's how do you do that?
Once you see these people breeding just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sulcatas every year, that's
okay, so I was wrong. It's any venomous snake not indigenous to Texas, and then Afrox Asiatic rocks, Burmese pythons, green anacondas, retics, and southern African pythons.
So it's technically need a permit for that.
Yeah,
it's not happening. There's a lot of folks that own that stuff without a permit. But yeah, so sulcatas are bred on just an insanely large amount, and I get them. People that breed them, they love them, but we don't need the number that are produced every year because just so many sulcatas don't make it to year 1, but year 10, right?
Right.
You're not seeing a lot of 60, 70, 80 pound tortoises out there because unfortunately they died, but they should all reach that size. All sulcatas should at least reach 80 pounds. So I agree with Drew that a quota limit would be nice on certain things like that.
But how do you control
But yeah, the problem is it's a hard one to control. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean don't try to find a way to do it. Just understand it's like all of us, it's an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to getting the right people involved in trying to make that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of people, like I said, that I've been talking to, and there's a lot of people that are good, some good people that are going to be involved in starting something. But it's getting everybody to really be on board, even though it's going to suck to say, hey, you might have to replace your racks because they're a little bit small. Maybe there are 4 corn snakes and you're shoving a 700-gram ball python in there. Maybe don't do that. So there's going to be some people we're going to have to push back that are going to push back and not want to do it. But I don't know. I think that as long as we can all kind of find a way to understand that if we don't do this to ourselves and take some sort of responsibility for making this change, that someone is going to do it for us and not in a way that's going to be real nice for us. It's going to be like Florida, where they're just going to be like, sorry, you have 6 months to get rid of everything you own, or we're just going to come get it and euthanize it.
And see, that's regulation made by people that don't understand.
That's right.
Outlawing Burmese pythons in Florida is fucking stupid. Like we said before, those people aren't the reason that there's a ton of Burmese pythons in the Everglades. So you're punishing a group of people who are not the problem. And so I feel bad for the folks there that had lifelong pets for, because these are reptiles. These things can live for decades. And then we're told, nah, you got to get rid of it or kill it.
Well, and not even like in Florida scares the absolute hell out of me. I don't sleep at night because of what's going on in Florida. And we live in Illinois. So there's a lot of people around the country that are like, USARK Florida started and they don't get it. And it's just, Florida's Florida. They just get attacked a lot. So they're fighting. If we lose Florida as a place to breed, sell, and keep reptiles, 2/3 of the reptile industry will go under.
Well, and there's states that have, I can't remember what the actual term is, but it's like they get triggered by that. So once that goes,
for anybody that doesn't know, once Florida gets to a certain point of banning exotics, there's a group of southern states. There's 17 southern states that all have trigger laws to go into effect.
Texas.
Yeah, including Texas. That all of a sudden, all of them are just going to go drop the hammer on exotics all at once. Florida is on top of just like, if you take away the fact that 2 of the 3 largest reptile wholesalers for all of the pet stores in the country are in Florida, and the fact that most animals come in through Miami, especially not even just import wild caught stuff, but we're talking anything that comes in through Europe. There's a lot of captive bred stuff that comes in there through Miami. Most of the Miami, like LA, and then LaGuardia, New York are some of the biggest animal hubs for animals entering the country. That's why a shipping ban in New York was a huge deal. And everybody was kind of like, why would that matter? It matters because if you can't ship animals out of LaGuardia anymore, a quarter of the animals coming to the country, we lose that port.
Yeah.
Like there's reasons that the people fighting us are picking on certain states, and people need to start waking up to the fact that it's not just a state for state fight. They're picking states that are literally the legs we're standing on.
Yep. I say it all the time. The people fighting us are well-funded. They're dedicated. They don't give up, and they know that the loudest voice wins, and they are good at it because they've been doing it for a long time. Anybody who walks along saying, "Oh, it'll never happen," it's this, they're fucking naive and stupid.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
And a big problem is that we, as a hobby also have this this mentality of, well, they're dumb. Like people who do this are dumb.
No, they're
HSUS
not.
is dumb. No, the problem is they're extremely smart and they're super good at their marketing. They're super good at reaching people. They have people that literally study social psychology so they understand how to communicate to anybody that this is bad. Like, how do we put that seed of doubt in there? They're extremely talented and they're great orators too on top of it.
Yes, they
So
are.
it's a big uphill battle. These aren't just people who are like, oh, I don't like snakes. Oh no. These are people that this is their job or this is their livelihood and their hill to die on.
Well, like my dad said in the chat, they're more radical than us and they're not apathetic. They're not just going to go, someone else will take care of it. They are going to try and get their cause taken care of.
That's right.
Well, and I think we get a lot of apathy in the industry, especially like walk around the show and start asking vendors who's actually a member of USARK, and you'll be disgusted. Most of them aren't. And then the other part of it is like, I don't know where I was going with that, but we've just got to get more people paying attention to it and paying attention to getting behind USARK. And that's a huge thing that we've got to find and figure out.
Yeah, this isn't something that we have someone else to do it. We don't. There is no one else to do it.
Oh, I know where I was going to go with it.
Oh, there you go.
The apathy. But like, you know, it sucks because you get to the Tinley auction, right? Or Arlington or any of these auctions and 50, 60, over 100,000's been raised before, depending on the auction. So you see these guys bidding a lot of money and it's a lot of fun. And it's a group of people organized to fund a huge amount of money towards an organization we care about. And people see that and they get excited about it, and they absolutely should. The problem with it is that most of the people that are if we took every single person that's been at a reptile show in 2022 that has walked into a show, no matter how many shows, if you've attended any reptile shows, we took that number of people, it's a fraction of 1% of people that keep reptiles in this country.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely
not that much. So then when you take all the vendors that actually are members and the few of those people that come to those shows that even know what USARK is, and then extrapolate that, like it's bad.
Well, that's like we were talking about this at the last show, that if you took just Timberline out, if you took him out of their team out of the equation, the amount of money that they drop at an auction is substantial, and most of that wow factor we get. If you take like them out, you take Bob Vu out, you
Chris.
take out,
Chris
take Chris and Sea Serpents out.
It's about
all of a
6
sudden, all
people
this
that
drops.
it's about 6 people at the auctions that raise all that money, and it's fun to watch them. It is, but I mean, it's you got to think about it. It's those 6 people, and everybody else walks away with not doing anything.
And even the amount of money raised, like it seems like a lot. Even when we break $100,000, that's nothing. And then if we get excited about that one night, and then for the next 3 months while there's no show, everybody just kind of doesn't talk about anything or forgets about it. And like that's one of the biggest problems I see in the industry is we get excited at auctions and we get excited at moments where there's something like that we can all rally towards. But the second that the next day comes, it's just silence, and just not that. Now, granted, it can't always be like we're all just pounding down doors and stuff, but it becomes it's a lot to get everybody motivated every time.
Look at their YouTube channel. USARK has a YouTube channel, and it's extremely well done, and it only has 7,000 followers. I'm sorry, there are way more than 7,000 of us and that's just proof of the apathy that we do have, unfortunately, in our hobby, is we can't even push the subscribe button.
So I'm looking at financials. In 2020, USARK collected $362,000 in change. HSUS gave away $1.4 million in grants to 268 animal welfare organizations in that same year. They gave away that much in grants.
Yep. USARK's budget has never hit their stamp budget.
Yeah, that sounds right.
HSUS's stamp budget.
USARK has never in a year made enough to cover HSUS's stamp budget.
I would like to see at most shows, if not all shows, a table at the front for USARK. And if it's not so much as just a bucket to collect donations, like the little bell ringers at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Because there's so many reptile shows, and if they could each gather $1,000 or whatever, that would still help so much to USARK. Because right now, nothing's happening. They're not getting any of that money. But I feel like USARK probably should get a little something out of all these reptile shows, because everyone at the reptile show benefits from USARK existing.
HSUS, the last numbers they have is 2019, and it is
What is HSUS?
Humane Society of the United States.
Yeah.
The
159,
Not affiliated.
one of two domestic terrorist organizations. Then PETA.
159 million.
But
Was there-
HSUS is not associated with most of your local pounds.
No.
Just
That's
so
right.
you know.
Two-
Oh,
They-
yeah.
they-
I knew that part.
They
came up
have
with
one
that.
shelter, right?
They use that name.
Yeah, they have
Two.
one. I don't think maybe HSUS maybe has one. I think PETA has
PETA
one.
has one.
PETA has one or two. One of them in Virginia, they
It's a kill
euthanize 98% of the dogs or something.
Less than 0.5% of HSUS budget consisted of grants to hands-on pet shelters.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so if you ever want to help a shelter, don't donate to HSUS. Go find your local rescue and ask them what they need. They'll probably need blankets and dog food and whatever.
They
Give
need
straight to
volunteers.
them. Yes, I used to when I was a kid go to the local pound on the weekends, because you could go on like Sundays or Saturdays or whatever and walk dogs. Like they just needed people to come there and walk the dogs around the property. It was a blast. I loved doing it. You get to go play with dogs, and you see some really sad stories. I remember going once and finding a dog that these guys had put this puppy in a box and then peed on it and then shot bottle rockets into it, and it was all scarred up and horrible.
PETA took in $72 million in 2021.
Fuck.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And none of that went to save any animals.
No.
None of it.
But you know, they're dumb and ignorant.
They were actually caught stealing dogs off people's porches, euthanizing them in a van, and then throwing them in a dumpster behind a Walmart.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
They were.
Probably for pictures. They take pictures of it and go look at what someone did. Because they always do that.
Yeah.
Look at this dumpster we found behind a
Do
vet
you remember
clinic.
a couple of years ago that video came out of those dairy workers like beating baby calves and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
It turns out that those were the freaking activists
Yep.
that went in there, and they were doing the things and videoing it and then saying it was the dairy workers.
Yeah, it's a terrorist organization.
Well,
Yeah.
they're responsible for the whole black cat conundrum too. Why you can't adopt black cats around, October or in fall in general, because Satanists will come and kill the cats. Actually, that's a huge thing that PETA pushed for a very long time. Is that they're black cats, they're in danger, so we shouldn't have black cats because what's going to happen? They're just going to be tortured. And it stayed. It's like popular fiction now too.
It's crazy. Just think about it. They're domestically funded terrorists, or people who these nice little grandmas at their house think they're doing a good thing are funding all these horrible things that these organizations do.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can get that, the reptile hobby, who knows that USARK, I guess that's another thing we've talked about before when you've been on here, is the perception of USARK. And so many people, we go back to this whole nobody wanting regulation because you're gonna pry it from my dead cold hands. They don't see USARK as a good thing. They're like, that's too much. We don't need them. They're the reason you can keep what you can keep. Because trust me, so many laws would have been passed by now if they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, USARK had their first major loss in Georgia this year.
Mhm.
Do you want to know nationwide how many emails were sent in opposition to the state of Georgia?
Nationwide, and this is with an extremely active herp society in Georgia.
And USARK posting about it and talking about it. And
Yep.
Take a guess how many emails?
I'm going 100.
56.
Jesus. That's ridiculous.
That's it.
And then when USARK lost, it's, well, fuck USARK. Obviously, I can swear, right?
Yes.
Oh,
no,
okay.
you can't fucking swear. The rest of us
He
can
used to
swear.
yell at me all the time.
That's because we had a non-explicit podcast and I had to edit it, and it was like listening to Morse code when you talk.
Jeez. I mean,
I'm
Ryan
from the Eminem generation.
Ryan talked about something swallowing all of it earlier. I mean,
HSUS, their executive compensation alone is $2.6 million.
Oh, yeah.
They-
And they also get bonuses, too.
Yeah.
And they also have a lot of offshore accounts.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure they have
Which
money.
is
hidden
really
everywhere.
weird for an organization that's making money to help animals to put all of it in the Cayman Islands.
so Lee Reddy in our
Uh-huh.
comments said he thought cats were one of the most invasive species in the U.S. hunting natural bird populations. They are. That is a serious issue. I made a post earlier this week. I love Dirty Jobs. It's one of my favorite shows, and they brought it back again for like the third time. And but he unfortunately he went to a place in Dallas where they catch stray cats, fix them, and then release them. And my whole problem is you did the hard part. You caught the cat. Kill the cat. It's not a horrible thing to say. It's not. I don't want you to torture the cat. Humanely euthanize.
And he's not saying like if you have a cat, we need to put it down.
Keep it inside.
Saying the outside wild feral cat.
We're not allowed to let any other animals outside.
That's right. If you catch a wild pig in Texas, you are not allowed to release it. Period.
But like any one of us, if we were to take our reptiles and put them outside right now, we would get in serious trouble, fined, and depending on what happens, jail time. But people can let their cat out all the time and consider it a pet. I'm like, that's not a pet. Just because you have 15 cats that come up and eat off that little dish on your porch, those aren't pets. You're feeding wild animals that don't belong there. And I had someone in my comments section on Facebook say that if you were to kill them, they would just get replaced with other cats.
No,
those cats
there'd be nothing to replace.
Yeah,
Right.
Like that's a whole. She was like, it's a better thing to fix them and then release them than to kill them. Like you will never convince me that.
But that's
So
not.
if you fix them, they can't reproduce.
They can
Correct.
They can still kill a ton of stuff and get in
Correct.
fights and cause a bunch of other issues.
Yeah.
But if you kill them, they also can't reproduce.
Yep.
But then they don't do any of that other stuff.
100% of dead cats don't reproduce.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is
Dude,
fact.
Wisconsin-
Or just like I found that if you shoot a criminal, there's no recidivism.
Exactly.
You know?
It's just that whole.
Gotta file hunting.
But then someone. I did not hear what he said, but I don't know that she's gonna let you repeat it. So,
Don't do it.
don't do
It's
it.
a trap. It's a trap.
Don't
What
scare
also
around.
kills me is that somebody tried to come on, and this is on his personal Facebook page, but someone tried to come on and be like, "Oh, well, how do you feel about all those?"
All the reptiles of all the invasive species in Florida, which are mostly reptiles, like kill them.
Yeah.
I don't let my love of an animal as a pet cloud my judgment when it comes to ecology. Like I understand how this works.
I have a buddy that hunts snapping turtles, and he called me once and asked how to tell the difference between males and females so he could let females go and just harvest males. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to teach you and all your buddies how to do this because I think that's awesome because hunting is conservation too.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
But my dad said being dead is a great contraceptive. That is very true.
Yep.
So let's get back to some of the other regulations here. Todd Autry said the overseeing agency, the Wildlife Department, must also seek consultation from experienced reptile keepers, which is why there needs to be some sort of agreed upon board of people, not just, and this is not a stab at US Hark, but not just people that are in charge of reptile or animal based companies, but there needs to be actual caretakers and people that understand, science, some of all that also involved. But yeah, I think state agencies need to have that person, not just someone that's in, say, the state biologist, and like, all right, you're now in charge of regulating pets, even though they've never kept a snake as a pet. That person should not be there. There should be somebody there that knows what's going on.
I agree. On the flip side of it, though, why, like for USARK, for instance, when you said you didn't want to take a stab, and I totally understand why we have the industry people, because they're putting the money into USARK. Unfortunately, you can have the best person that's taking care of like multiple species and for generations and like is very well written and very well spoken. But if they haven't been contributing to USARK, I don't fucking want you representing me. All you're doing is you're just an armchair warrior.
Well, they can still contribute, but I mean, they can't contribute. Obviously, they can't do like what Timberland, they can't give $100,000 a year. But if they're an active part of USARK and they have the background history to be able to explain, like someone in Texas who could go,
just be a member.
Well, like when I had wildlife fisheries show up at my house several years back, and the guys had no clue what my animals were, and I basically had to go through and go, all right, this is this species, and I got to sand boa, and they're like, wait, are those boa constrictors? No, they're sand boas. This is full grown. This is what they are. But I then hit point, and I was like, this is a boa constrictor. I'm like, oh, okay. And they had no clue what anything was in there. Those guys probably should not be the ones coming there to tell somebody if they're doing something right or wrong.
On the other hand, it's also yes, it is hard to say like they shouldn't be the ones doing that. But as hobbyists and as representatives, and especially if we want to make sure that we're getting the laws that we want put into place, we need to be the ones that are reaching out appropriately and supporting those individuals so that they don't look at a Sambo and go, oh dear God, it's going to kill me. We need to help support those people too and share our knowledge rather than wait for somebody else to do it or just bitch when somebody comes into our home and, you know, unfortunately doesn't know the difference between the
I agree. And I think that if we had an organization, their job, maybe not, they would not be the person going to houses. They can't go to every house, but they educate state employees, state departments, and on what this is and go through, you know, like, so the problem is a lot of states have these laws. The guys there to enforce them don't actually know all of those animal laws.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know, and they know what they've been told by somebody before, like you've taught before with the rattlesnake, right? They took rattlesnakes off the list of protected species.
And nobody told the game
and
wardens.
Nobody told the game wardens. They had no idea.
They actually did a legislative timber rattlesnakes were removed from our protected list March 30th, 2020, which is an odd that it's not even the last day of a month and that it was in March, but that's when they did it. Timbers and indigos, Texas indigos were both removed. In September, when they did the legislative update for the game wardens, they still pushed out that they were protected because I had a game warden stop me when I was relocating a timber rattlesnake and try to write me a ticket. And I had to explain, look, man, it's not, luckily I have the actual link to the Texas Administrative Code saved in my phone. And I showed him and he was gracious enough to actually listen. And he did some checking and he actually called Austin and he was pissed. He's like, look, man, he had like the PowerPoint on his phone. He's like, here's the legislative update I just went to 3 days ago. And it's still, timber rattlesnakes are on our PowerPoint that we just, every game warden in the state of Texas just looked at. If you go to Texas Parks and Wildlife's website right now, it still says they're protected.
Oof.
Yeah. And they blame it on COVID that they haven't updated the website. I'm like, yeah, we're like 3 years into that shit now. Yeah.
But yes, I think that education, and that's really the key for every issue we have in this hobby is education. If you just educate people on everything, things will get better. But I do think that the wildlife departments, Fish and Wildlife and all that would be great. Travis Wyman said no sales of venomous to anyone that had not gone through a mentorship, which I would strongly agree with. I don't think someone should be able to randomly go buy a monocle cobra because they feel like owning a monocle cobra.
Yeah, I think I like Florida's laws with venomous. Not that
maybe
many it's not
hours,
exact. Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's not exact, but it should be stages. It should be, your egg Kistrodon and U.S. crotalids is stage 1. Stage 2 is your exotic Viperidae. Stage 3 is your, elapids.
Yeah.
I still have egg Kistrodon. I liked it stuck in my head.
But then that's a simple, I think, good way to start. Like even in Illinois, there is permits you can get, same thing with different types of hours.
The problem is that there's a lack of actual mentors because unfortunately, some of the people who are volunteering to be mentors aren't necessarily people that should be mentors. So we have to figure out a system also. If there's a mentor thing, like how do you qualify to be a mentor?
You should be certified. But the problem is you're going to have the ones who go, well, I don't want anybody knowing what I have. And I'm like, well, then you're the problem. Like I get that you want to be private, but to make this legitimate, you can't. And if you truly, those ones that want to be private are also breeding these venomous snakes usually. And I'm like, well, then you should probably want to do this legally so the next person can legally buy one of your babies that you're producing.
Right.
So I like the idea of a mentorship, but I like the idea of a certified mentor. You go through process and the state's like, yeah, you can mentor people. And that way, when someone goes to apply for theirs later on, you go, this was who I was mentored by. Here's my hours. Now let me go buy.
And this could be self-regulated completely. Like look at the falconry organizations. Like falconry completely self-regulates a lot of itself.
Yep.
Yes, it
the only
does.
thing you have to do is you would have to reach out to insurance companies and say, hey, I need to up my liability insurance to whatever amount to cover it because, you want to be safe. And that's how you also protect yourself and how we show that the reptile community is putting money into the economy. Yeah. Insurance is a great way to show that we're putting money into the economy because that's what makes it run.
And before anybody argues that cost, I'm not saying the mentorship should be free either. Because, you are giving your time to someone. So that could supplement the cost there. So, and also help pay for a food bill for whatever snakes you got. You know, it's just, there's a lot of positives to it. And I agree that we would have to get enough of the venomous keepers. And I think there are many responsible venomous keepers that would agree to this. But we know, as in this hobby, and it's not just the venomous, in general, there are a lot of shady motherfuckers too, who would go, no,
everywhere.
I'm certified.
Everywhere, not just in the reptile hobby.
Pay me $100. I'm certified now, and you can get your hours. And they'll go, all right, I'll just sign that you got these hours, and you can go tell them we're good. And then they never hear from you.
Or something like the Big Cat School,
or Croc School, things there could be. I mean, the other thing that
there's like a school you can go to for learning to work with crocodilian.
So it's run by
AZA.
the AZA, and what you do is you can actually sign up. I think you actually have to be involved with or I don't think you have to be involved with an organization. Actually,
most people are AZA members.
It's expensive, which is why
some ways to do it without.
Well, you have to become an AZA member, and a normal person, an individual, can be an AZA member.
Is it held at St. Augustine or Gatorland at St. Augustine, right? Yeah, and they go to Croc School every year. I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yep.
That's
cool.
And it's great, and it's a wonderful way to get a lot of people hands-on experience, and then to put them in contact with other people, so those other people who can mentor them further with maybe more dangerous species or with different things. Because the Croc School isn't like an all-encompassing, this takes care of everything, you can now take care of every crocodilian in the world. This is, like your primary. This is like
generic.
Let's get you in. This is your safety. These are the basics and stuff like that. Now let's put you into a network of people who are like, yes, you took the school, you're serious about this. Let me help pass down my knowledge.
That's cool.
So there's a couple of good comments in the chat. So Amanda already said maybe they have hunters education courses before you go hunting.
Yep.
So something that would be smart for maybe venomous or reptiles in general for a lot of things, some of the larger ones. She said she enjoyed the hunter's education. I learned from it. My dad had a good point. US Art could develop a mentor certification course, and the fees from this could help funding. So that could go into that. But that would take, again, getting a group of venomous keepers across the country to go, all right, guys, we're going to get ahead of the problem, and we're going to go ahead and regulate this one thing. Let's go ahead and do this so we can try and stop these next 5 things from happening.
And a big part of this is going to become once there is some sort of regulation or an accreditation organization that's hobby run, that's a private organization, not a government organization. It's going to take the show promoters and the websites guys where you sell those animals to put down their foot too, and say, hey, if you sell venomous on fauna classifieds, you have to be a certified accredited person through this organization. Or it's same thing with like some of the Texas shows and things like that where they allow venomous and things like that, or anything, even if maybe it's even just for general breeders, we start making it where it's you got to be accredited, you have to show that you're doing it right, that you understand how to present yourself in a public way, as well as how to present the hobby, and then those people become accredited, and it just kind of cleans itself up.
And for the record, we're not attacking venomous people, because I also think people should do this for like horses and large citizens or parrots, large parrots and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer that there should be more mentorship and more open mentorship. So it's not just venomous people.
And I know we have friends that breed retics, but let's face it, someone goes out and buys a baby retic. Yeah, that's easy to take care of. But if that person keeps that retic for the next 6 years, that's not an easy snake to take care of full grown. That is a lot to handle. That takes a certain level of knowledge on how to deal with large constrictors. If no one's ever dealt with a snake over 12 foot, it's not the same as dealing with a 6-foot boa constrictor. It's just not. There's a lot going on there, and people aren't properly trained in that.
No, absolutely. Retics it's hard for me to say it because I love them. But mainland and not dwarf, just mainland retics are incredibly difficult for me to justify having in captivity. It's a snake that reaches up to 20 feet and is freaking arboreal. They eat monkeys. They don't live in little holes in the ground. They are incredibly acrobatic and strong. And we just are not fit to keep them right in captivity. Like most zoos aren't fit to keep that animal in captivity.
Well, and I've wanted one for a long time, but I know that one, it's just me, Katie, and our daughter. And if something were to happen with a 12-foot retic, that's a lot just for her to try to help me. But two, That's a lot of cage space because I can't, like, I know I keep some of my snakes in cages that people would say are too small. I keep my boas in 4-foot cages, 4x2 by 18, and people can get upset. But I can't imagine the retics that people keep in something that's only like 2.5 foot tall and 2.5, 3 foot deep and 8 foot long. And I'm like, that animal's hitting every single wall when it curls up. It's taking up the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's literally in a shipping box, and you've made that a home. And so I can't do that. I know that animal needs a spare room in my house to be able to do what it's got to do.
And they become morbidly obese. How many retics do you know? How many retics have you run into in the hobby? Even retic guys that you know that have a snake that's over 10 or 15 years old. Those things live to be 40 or 50. Right? I know on one hand I can count how many I know are over 15 years old, and that's horrific. And there's tens of thousands of them hatched a year. So,
and that's why we love Bill too, is because he actually put out a a TikTok? I think that went viral actually. That was showing like what a healthy retic is supposed to look like, and what a healthy sperm is supposed to look like. I was like, I love you.
Yeah, they're not the same. They're not the same thing.
Yeah,
they're not meant to be shaped the same. They don't live the same way.
Yep,
they are not the same kind of snake. But everybody sees big python, they go, "Oh no, it's all the same." It's like that's like a green anaconda. I'm like, that's wonderful if you want to own a green anaconda. That thing's made to live in the water. Yep. You can't just put it in a cage with a litter pan from what you would use for a cat and go, "That's your water dish." That's not how that thing's made. Its body weight is not made to just be hanging out on land all the time.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I do like about art at the Houston Zoo. The retic are in that gigantic cage with a huge tree and things stretch.
That's the one that Blanco used to be in.
Yeah, it was not a very good alligator exhibit, but it's a great retic exhibit.
Yes. I have some friends who were whatever Burma's called now, Myanmar. No, they weren't there. Where were they at? They were where retics are.
Indonesia.
He went to Indonesia this summer, and they found their first retic in the basement of their hotel.
Nice.
Like an 8 foot retic.
That's awesome.
Up in like the beams catching bats,
like a rat snake.
Oh
yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I've seen Brady Barr went to he got bit by one. It's hilarious, but he went to caves where they hung out on the side of caves and they grabbed bats as they flew through the caves.
They went to one of those too.
Yep.
But
That's
it was in the
cool.
basement of their hotel.
There's a couple of snakes that do that.
Yeah, it's weird to think that retic, because you see like cave snake, like the red-tailed green rats, like some of those cave snakes like that, they do that, and they got the thin little body for climbing up shit. And then you think about this 16-foot snake that can just also climb and hang on to the side of a cave wall and pick off things as they fly out through.
Yep.
And then we put them in a box, a little tiny box.
Yep.
So I don't know if you're done with our questions on
No, but go ahead.
Facebook, but Lee Reddy has a great segue into the next section.
Okay, we'll get there in a minute.
Just a heads up,
We'll
it is 8:30.
I know. Okay.
Okay.
Just looking through some
I
of these.
love her. She is like me on it. Like, okay.
I haven't eaten yet.
So So Darren Watson said mandatory lockout style enclosures for keeping venomous. I definitely think that all venomous there should be a 2-stage locking system for all venomous snakes. Zoos do it. You should have to do it at your house.
I feel like it's the safe and responsible thing
it's
to
equivalent.
do.
It's equivalent to everyone saying keep your guns in a gun safe, right?
Yeah, it literally is.
It's a loaded gun.
Yeah.
You don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're doing to get to your gun. You don't want them to get to your Kistradon.
Yeah.
No.
And everybody who free handles is a worthless pile of shit.
That's true. There's a new fucker I've seen on Facebook who's been popping up lately with a whole bunch of free handle shit. And every time I see him, I'm like, God, as much as I'm like, I wish that snake would bite him. I'm like, please don't bite him because that's just gonna ruin it for the rest of us.
Yeah.
I have some friends that breed some really cool stuff, and if I could just write Venomoid on the cup and send it to you guys and let them it'll just work itself out.
No.
You watched the video with Jake the Snake talking about whenever he had the cobra bite Macho Man.
Yeah.
And how he turned around and slapped that snake in the face like 5 times to piss it off. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's not helping.
Jake the snakes were not taken care of at all.
No, not at all.
Fun fact, Jake the Snake is actually scared of snakes.
Yeah, I knew that. I did know that. He was scared of snakes.
Oh.
I did a show with him, and he was like, I'm scared of snakes. I'm like, that's good to know.
He was not scared of drugs. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Danielle said more accountability for sellers, making sure that selling to people who can actually take care of their animal. That is definitely on the seller. We had someone last week on one of our comments talk about how it's not his job once the animal is sold, he's done. I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works. When I sell an animal, they can contact me through the entire life of that animal. I will help them gladly. And I don't care if it's a $50 animal or a $50,000 animal. I'm going to help them. And the only way this hobby gets any better is if everyone has that mentality of, yeah, I'm there. I'm not saying you're on call at 3 a.m. to answer a call because they need to take their animal to the vet. But if they're having an issue with the animal not eating for a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, yeah, you can help them troubleshoot that. That's not going to hurt you. So
Somebody did it for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love it. Every single, like all these keyboard warriors that get pissed off at somebody and just bash them. And I was, like how many kids get beat on for not knowing everything? And I was like, I'm pretty sure when you were 12, you didn't know everything, Dick.
No, at 12 they thought they knew everything, and then they never matured out of that.
Oh, and they also commented some sort of regulation to prevent recent imports from getting sold immediately. I'm actually not against that, and they had a very good point. Candoya is kind of one of the key examples they pointed out here. There's some people that sell Candoya pregnant when they come in, buy this pregnant snake, and then all of a sudden you've got 40 babies that you have no way of taking care of, and so now these 40 babies. Yeah, they're all just gonna starve to death because you can't feed them.
Oh, shit. Apparently, Bass Pro Shops is on fire.
Oh shit!
Like the one here?
The one that Brittany works at.
Oh my gosh. Sorry.
Sorry,
Is
y'all.
she okay?
That's what she's about to text to find out. So yes, I would like to see more regulation on, not so much regulation on imports, because I don't have a huge issue against imports and certain done properly in certain
maybe not
ways.
Regulation, but like best management practices that people should be following. So
agree that you're not going to import it and then put it on a table that morning.
Oh God.
So this is one thing you can do is start to educate and then try and support the guys that don't. Josh Alder at Exotic Empire out of Michigan. That kid is awesome, man. He imports everything. He gets it. I can send you to his table, and unless you know what has been coming into the country, you can't point on his table what's captive bred and what's wild caught.
Yeah,
See,
we
that's
actually get
awesome.
a lot of our Amazon tree boas from him, and he's the only one I'll buy from because I trust him. I can look at him. I can,
They're
and
all
if there's
healthy.
an issue,
So he's actually bringing them in, running them through
They all get he
treated for
sets up
parasites, running them through
300 tubs of water, and they all get soaked, and then they all get put away and left alone for a week. That the only thing those animals hear is the air conditioning unit in that room going, controlling. He doesn't go in the room unless he needs to do water, do whatever, and leave.
So let's put it this way. There's a show that was around here, and I asked him if he wanted to, stay at the house and he could go to that show. And he didn't, because he had just done a show like earlier in that weekend, and he didn't want the animals driving for that long. And he didn't want the animals to be stuck in the cups for that long because he has standards. And if they don't meet them, he will not do a show. And he lost out on money potentially.
Okay, let me ask for
but he
anybody
put the animals above it.
And this is his livelihood. This is his job.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, because someone's going to ask her, well, I've got to make money for a life, but obviously if he can do it, you can do it.
He's lost money doing it.
Yeah,
And he'll tell you straight up he has, but he cares enough that care shows, and you keep going back to him.
Yeah, no, and that's by supporting that. One, you end up with healthier animals. You're more successful with them, and then on top of it, like I was at a show, and behind our booth were some other importers that I know that are friends. That I heard them talking about how Josh must be some undercover U.S. Fish and Wildlife agent because he has the nicest looking stuff. And the guy, like these guys have been doing it for 10 to 20 years and they never get anything nice like that. But the reason is because Josh basically was like, he worked with importers or exporters, got some imports. And when they came in crappy, he basically called them up, ripped them a new ass and said, if anything ever comes looking like this again, I'll never give you another penny. So the next time they sent stuff through, he got good stuff.
He has standards.
The other guys are just like, it's just part of bringing them in. So they don't say anything. So they get the crap. And that's just kind of what it is.
And see, that's the problem.
Animals get caught and unhealthy animals get caught.
And he can charge more. And he can charge more for an import that looks better and is eating and is healthy. And he can go, look, this thing is ready to go. Whereas, look, you guys go to Tinley. There are some large scale reptile companies that been there that I would not touch anything on their table. But they sell a shit ton, and a lot of that stuff does not make it past a year and in somebody's care. Whereas this guy obviously would be a much better way. Yeah.
I love your dad, by the way. He's been keeping me
What did he say?
entertained.
There's
Fucking feds get all the good snakes. He's seriously been keeping me entertained throughout this entire thing.
All the time.
Oh,
That's what he's good for. It's great.
That's all he's good for.
I
What?
did not say that.
I heard it. Sam.
I did
I heard it.
not.
He
He cannot take it back.
recall that payment you made
No.
a while ago.
Take your
Can't
Christmas
take my
money.
Christmas money back.
I just want one more, and then we'll go to VivTech stuff. But Elizabeth K. Nash said, "I feel like there should be a required number of animals owned of a specific species, or required number of years before one's allowed to solicit advice." I just would like people to shut up. Like, if you've had whatever animal for a month, you're not the person they're asking that question to. You're just not.
Also, like, if we could just, as a hobby and as a society, understand that saying, "I'm not sure, let me direct you to somebody that might have an answer,"
Or let me
is a
look.
fucking answer. And it doesn't make you look like an idiot. It
I
makes you
tell
look
my
like somebody who's not an asshole.
I tell my third graders all the time, I have no idea that answer. Let's Google it and find out. And then I teach them that you need to check like 3 websites and make sure the information is the same before you just assume the first thing you find is correct.
No, that dude with all those jelly cups on
Stellar.
his table at the show told me this is how I got to do it. So that's the only way I can do it.
No. You don't
Google
know
Scholar,
is
love
an
it,
acceptable
guys.
answer.
Yep.
Also, don't look at all the books this is where I get hard. This is where it's hard for me because, like, I love books and we have a huge, extensive reptile library. That's why I was bitching about his, engineering books
Everything.
because it should be more of that. But we have a huge, extensive reptile library, and the information that's in those books isn't always right. There's actually a lot of books that are either written as parodies. Some of them are written from point of view. Some of them are written with outdated information that was regurgitated because they didn't find the newest information. So looking at books is great, but also looking into like Google Scholar and things like that, as well as listening to people who are keeping for anecdotal information. But we have to take it in from different places. It can't just be the care sheet that's on some websites. And I almost said it. So I stopped myself.
Good job.
I should get a
Yes.
high five.
All right, so let's get into VivTech stuff, since that was the main reason. I want to read Lee's novel here, and then we'll get into stuff. So he said they keep panther chameleons. They breed amazing panther chameleons. He says, "I have a question about y'all's UVB bulbs. Sean Gray told him that the bulbs are dimmable now, which is true. How low can you dim the bulb before it doesn't produce UVB? Reason I ask is I run a specific UVB reading for my baby panther chameleon, and I have to add screen layers to reduce the output of the bulb, where in my adult and sub-adult cages, I can just move the stick, the zone 3 reading, so move the stick away. But the babies, they're all over the place on the screen, misting nozzle and everywhere in the enclosure. Says I haven't got a bulb from y'all yet, but I do plan on trying them out with our panther chameleons."
Yep. You can dim them from 0 to 100%.
Yep. And so the UVB and the UVA do dim along with the visible light. The visible light is there. It's a plant light, but it's really there just so that you can actually see what you're doing. But the UVB and the UVA is completely dimmable. So if you have it at 2%, that means you're getting 2% of the light output, and then you're also getting 2% of the UVB and also of the UVA that the bulb had created. And you can mist it too.
Y'all
Yeah.
are going to
So-
get me in trouble with Sam. I hate you all.
I didn't do it. You said it.
I did not.
So yeah, I need to get some bulbs. I've got like 3. I've got these little skinks back here that I need to buy of bulb
You
for.
have to
But
have a code.
I know.
He just has to tell the wife which ones to buy so she can do it, because I don't know which ones to buy.
This last paycheck was rodents or bulbs, and it went rodents. But next paycheck will be bulbs. So let's talk about last time you were on here. The main things you had. Let's see. You had the amazing snake bag. I just love that as one of the products. You had the snake bag.
Snake
You
bags.
had the original bulb, but now you have dimmable bulbs.
Yep.
And you had the UVB meter, which seems to sell out like hotcakes.
Yeah, and then the
You only have
last one, I decided that before we bring it back is going to be out of stock for a decent amount of time, which kind of sucks. But it's going to get relaunched, and it's going to be like USB rechargeable
Ooh.
instead of working with 9-volt batteries, which suck because it's like the only thing in my house I use 9-volt batteries
And
for.
it's also really crappy for the environment to keep throwing out batteries. But
I was actually just thinking, do we have anything that uses 9-volt batteries?
your smoke
smoke
detector,
your
in
smoke
theory.
detector
Other
and your
than
UV meter.
One of our stuff.
Other than the smoke detectors.
Started beeping at 2 a.m. night before last. Rachel and I both woke up, and I'm like, "Fuck."
Ours goes off
Luckily,
when
I
you cook
had
hot
one.
dogs, so we've taken the
Yeah,
The one in the
batteries
kitchen
out
has
of
been
it goes off when you
dismantled.
boil water.
But other than that,
Versus-
like that's it. UV meter and smoke detector. So this be like one less thing to have a 9-volt for. And then the other thing too is, I mean, this is a phone, but when you do all the UV meters, the sensor's on the top, so you have to set it on here, and it's actually reading up here.
yeah.
This one, the sensor's on the face, so you set it
Genius.
flat, and it'll read it at the surface. So
This is our pillow talk. How do we make things better?
Whoa.
but yeah, so that as soon as we have a couple little things I want to tweak with it, and then that one should be early this year back in stock. So pretty excited to bring that one.
That one's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, because everybody talks about wanting a UVB meter, and a lot of them are super expensive, which I think as a necessary tool for proper reptile care, it needs to be within an affordable range, which I think yours is most definitely an affordable range compared to what everybody else calls the standard and what everybody else buys, because that is expensive as hell.
Well, and quite frankly, the fact that I know you guys do as much research for your things as you do, I'm a lot more likely to shell out money for something with your name on it because I know the time that has been put behind it.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually
She'll also call us up if something happens.
right. Well, we actually
Motherfucker.
we do have a lab grade. We have a lab photo spectrometer. So we actually do test all of our bulbs. We test the meters. We make sure that they're accurate and we're using the same equipment that's like Solar Meter and other companies are type of equipment they're using to calibrate when you send their meters to them. So
yeah, I'm gonna be
using that
honest.
same style equipment.
The first time we ever had Ryan on, I think I understood like 4 words, every 4 words that came out of his mouth.
He's
But
not
he
that
was
smart.
so passionate about talking about these bulbs that I'm like, all right, you have my money. Yep,
So-
done.
So Lee asked a good question, and I know for a lot of folks that do like chameleons because they're going across several cages, or geckos because they're going across several cages. Are there any plans for a linear style bulb for that?
So yes and no. I'm working on a linear strip light for like longer enclosures. It's going to have a gradient throughout that's not going to be consistent all the way across. Because so the problem is we've been indoctrinated with this idea that we need to create full coverage UVB in our enclosures. And the problem with that, and the idea is the sun provides full coverage UV on all surfaces outside. The problem with that thinking is that if a bearded dragon is outside on some rocks and there's a whole bunch of plants and trees and stuff all over the place and holes under the rocks, there is an enormous amount of microhabitats and climate changes that he can make in 20 inches in any direction. He can, if he doesn't want the same amount of heat, but he needs some UV, he can step into the shade, drop the temperature 20 to 30 degrees, but still get refracted UV from the surfaces. If he wants to get completely underground, he can. When you're doing that in an enclosure, it's not as easy to do that. So when it comes to light distribution, when you're doing a full coverage tube, the intensity of the UV, the gradient is from the distance to the bulb. Further you get away from it, the lower it gets. So the gradient's from the bulb away. If you're using a tube across, say, like a 55-gallon tank, somebody gets their bearded dragon, they put a T5 on it, and that's 12 inches front to back. That's not really that much of a change in distance from the bulb. So you really have a pretty flat UV surface. And without giving the animal a lot of different climbing and sticks and branches and cover to break up that UV, you basically are just blasting them with sunlight that they can't get away from. And too often you get people who read that and then think that they need their bearded dragon to have a tile bottom and a hide log on one side and a water ball on the other side. And then they blast it with UV that it can't get away from. And the animal just hides with its eyes closed all the time. So that's why I went with a spotlight. This spotlight has a high amount of UVA that they can actually see. So they'll walk across an enclosure to walk through this light and regulate it themselves. So that allows them to get into the beam of light. It's a 3-dimensional gradient, and then they can walk away from it as if they want to get away from it. Just like they would in the wild, where they would find refracted light or different places or different microclimates they might want to hide out in.
So I think one thing that for some of the folks that maybe like Lee that breed on a larger scale is just because they use one bulb for 4 or 5 cages. So if there was some sort of strip that had know, like you have the track lighting in houses where you can kind of move the track lights around. They each have their own individual bulb, but one plug.
Why couldn't you just buy that setup and put it over your cages and use VivTech bulbs?
I was gonna say, if there's some sort of thing where you can move it down so it lines up just right, and it's one plug, that would be great.
We're working on some stuff. Right now, all I've found that kind of exists is you can actually buy an extension cord for like out in your patio that you can has screw-in outlets.
That's how we do our lunch.
That's actually that's how we do some of our testing. That's actually what Josh's Frogs is using to do some of their enclosures that are all small and really close together. But I am also looking at potentially daisy chainable puck light type style lighting. And then at some point I will be doing strips like that. They'll be real low profile. I want to be able to be routing them in racks, things like that, to be able to get UV lighting into racks. That's the last one I'm working on, though, because the UV has to be perfect because it's going to be very close to the animals.
Yeah.
So, and in a very a much more confined space. So I really want to make sure that the wavelengths are
well. I think
in.
In that case, I think also an industry change should be done in tubs. I think they need to be, once you're doing UV, they need to be a little deeper.
They need to be deeper and they need to be a little wider. Like every animal, like I'd like to get to a point where an animal needs to be able to stretch out in a straight line in at least one direction and at least 60% of its body in the other direction.
Yeah.
Like at least, like that sounds crazy to some people, but that's really not asking that much for an animal to be able to extend its entire body.
It's similar to us. If you were, for instance, if Ryan was trying to sleep on a twin size bed, he wouldn't be able to extend himself and actually stretch.
Y'all know that struggle.
Yeah.
He'd have to kind of like haul his arms in or his legs in so that he could sit comfortably on that bed and sleep. But if you moved him onto like a larger bed, then you can stretch out. Same exact thing happens with these animals. It's basically like being stuck in a fetal position or like in a really cramped position on an airplane and never being able to stretch out the rest of your body.
Well, that's one of the reasons I don't do my big boas in tubs. Like I know there are boa tubs out there, but like I like the idea of at least a 4 foot long cage. They may not be able to get their whole body because they're 6-7 foot, but a huge chunk of their body can stretch straight out. Whereas in a tub, yes, you can sometimes get the same square footage, but because of the way it's shaped, it's still not the same.
I know this probably sounds crazy from a guy who makes his living building racks, but I'm slowly but surely transitioning all of our colubrids to cages.
They move so much.
They move so much, and part of it is I hate opening up a king snake in a tub and it launching out at me because I can't see it.
Yes.
Like, could you imagine having Bandit in a freaking tub?
Oh yeah, the Blue Beauty, that would be a nightmare.
Just for you.
In a tub, in your face every time you opened it.
Well, and like there's some stuff where like tubs make total sense. Like
stand boas, they're great.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'd love somebody to take on like Calabar burrowing pythons and sunbeam snakes. All those would be perfect for racks. Like the fossorial, they don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, James has one right there.
I'll say there's one right here in this tank right here.
Yeah, they're living poop emojis.
Yeah.
They are. They
pretty
curl up
much.
like little
Now I
turds.
just gotta get it to eat on a regular basis for me. It'll be good.
Dark one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The one where its head looks like
I
a
don't
butt.
even know what's in my house. This is horrible. He could
Yeah, but, like,
probably
other-
bring a new snake into the house. And if it were not for the fact that it would have to quarantine in my closet,
What about
I
an alligator?
would not know it was here.
In a
You're not
swimming
getting
pool?
an alligator. Shut your mouth, Robert.
Yeah, I tried getting another broad snout came in. She wouldn't let me.
He wants to.
She said no to Cuban Crocs too. She's basically
Fuck that. No, she's right on that one. I've seen those things. Those things run.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but they're still awesome.
I just want Chinese
That's the
alligator.
first person we
I
talked to
said
that
you could
actually
get
said
a
no.
Chinese alligator.
I just want a Chinese alligator. That's the only. I would get rid of every animal I own to own just a Chinese alligator.
Okay, the
Ugh,
amount
working
of
on it
illegalness
one
would
day.
be-
I know.
That's just
I
it.
will.
It's
They're
the
all
legality.
The problem is 30 miles down the road,
Not
there's
even.
70 of
Not
them.
miles
even
down
30
the road.
miles down the road.
And I've seen them. I've come this close to them and I can't have them.
Yeah, and he's like, doesn't know what he's going to do with all these babies he's producing because they're not like other things where he can just ship them to anybody else that has a facility. They have to have the proper permits, which
Yeah.
apparently are not very easy to get for Chinese alligators.
No. Amanda Reddy. There
Amanda
she
Reddy
is
wants her
again.
pied alligator.
She's-
No.
Yeah, she wants a pied gator too.
Now Erica's like,
I
a
want
pied.
to pie anything. I like pies.
I do too.
Okay, so
Hi.
So I do like pie.
I do
so
like
let's get back to something. So since the last time we spoke, we talked about light bulbs. You now have an entire array of sensors and things that go with that, the cameras, all of that. So give us the elevator pitch for all of these things that you have.
Yeah, so it's our smart monitor system, and it's basically and I talked it down. I shouldn't, but because I see what it can be. But right now, it's a platform for having cameras, on-off outlets. We've got power strips that have on-off sensors or on-off outlets on them. They can all be timed. There's an outdoor, so you could use it inside an enclosure or around turtles. This is also dimmable, so you could dim down the pumps if they're variable speed. Yeah, and then this is an outlet where every single outlet is individually timed and controllable. I've got a misting system. I've got a misting system run on it where it goes for a minute every couple times a day or every couple days. Yeah, and then they've got USB. So if you're charging your cameras or anything else, you can use that. And then we've got temperature and humidity sensors, outdoor cameras, which can be used inside the enclosure, sprayed, it can get all dusty. That won't wreck them.
Drop in a water bowl for about 15 minutes.
Don't do that. They're not waterproof. They're water resistant.
but they are dust proof.
But yeah, so and that's
wait.
It's.
Did you say they are dust proof?
Dust proof, dust resistant, and water
what does that mean? Like
they're meant for outdoors.
Yeah.
So if it's in an enclosure that's dry and they're kicking up a lot of dirt and dust, it's not going to get inside.
So like for people that have monitors that make a fucking mess. The tortoises,
tortoise. You cleaned my wall yet?
No, not yet. They did splash mud up on the wall.
Pure butter story.
We've got some of the ex situ enclosures, which are outside the enclosures. Those cameras we use for a lot of our just monitoring the room. Which is nice, especially when we have animals that happen to get out.
That's how we found our room, Tokay.
Yeah, that's where we figured out where my bug eating Tokay that takes care of our reptile facility happened to be living.
Although, in fairness, she is. Oh, don't look at me that way. She's super chunky.
Oh, she's doing a good
and we're
job.
We're gonna go put you into an enclosure, and then we're like, you are so healthy.
Well,
and
she also
chunking.
She also got bigger than any male we had, so I didn't think I could give any male to her. Pretty sure she'd just kill it.
I was just going to say, yeah.
She lives out there and she's great. Every now and then you hear her, but
yeah.
So, what are the features on your camera?
So, the in situ one is they're 1080i night vision, motion activated. They are battery operated, so it's just pretty nice. And they also because they're outdoor rated, they come with a solar panel. So if you want to use it on your tortoise enclosure outside during the summer, it'll charge itself.
We're looking at the same thing.
Ooh.
We're both on the website looking at them.
As someone who lives 4 hours away from their tortoises, I need to
be watching them.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the one that's inside our monitor enclosure.
Send it to me. I'll tell everybody that's what you want for your birthday, and they can give you $5 to put towards it.
But the nice thing is with the in situ camera, which is the outdoor one, the one that's weather rated, it's battery operated. So it'll send you a notification if you want it to, when it gets to 20% battery, so you know when to recharge it. And then if you're running out the door and you have eggs that are going to hatch, you can just unscrew one of the cameras and shove it in the incubator and run out the door.
Oh,
So
nice.
you don't have to run wires.
Yeah.
You have to do anything like that.
Have you figured out the general lifespan of a decent battery in there? How long is that?
It kind of depends on how often the activity is and how often it's turning on. But for general, 6 months is easy.
Oh, okay.
And then this is the little one that you can actually clip it on anywhere. This is the out in the room little camera.
And that was not bad. Yeah. It was like $69.
Oh,
yeah,
totally
these
affordable.
are 70, and the other ones are 140.
140.
Yeah,
it uses Wi-Fi and it's outside.
I was gonna say it's Wi-Fi, it's wireless.
I had an extra camera from taking them down on that one side of the
You
shop
have
today.
a shit ton of cameras at
I
your
have 2
house.
more now.
Good Lord.
And I tried to put one in the snake room earlier. Rachel wouldn't let me. But she doesn't want one in there. She feels weird when she's in there working if she knows that.
I felt like a burglar scoping out your house the other day because we drove by 6 times just so that we could check windows and see where the cameras were.
All you had to do is ask me.
But y'all were at your family Christmas thing, and I didn't want to bother you.
All right, back to this. So the smart monitors, you have temperature and humidity sensors.
And how it fits in the
Oh yeah, so here's one of the sensors. Erica's just bringing me all the different cool stuff. So we use the sensors. This is inside our incubator or one of our incubation containers. So this has got Acanthosaurus natale, which is a Natal's mountain horn lizards, and a lychee egg. Yeah,
super excited.
Yeah, but the nice thing is with the temperature humidity sensors, they fit inside the enclosure. So instead of monitoring like the temperature and humidity of your incubator, I'm monitoring the temperature and humidity of every single egg box.
Wow.
Wow.
Those
You
are only
can
30
set up-
bucks a piece.
Yeah, you can set up alarms. You do have to, if you get the sensors, you do have to get the gateway. It's one gateway per 50 sensors. That cut the sensor price from $80 to $30.
And what does the gateway do? Because I'm looking at the gateway. So that's only $50 for the gateway.
Yeah. So the gateway basically is the Wi-Fi to Bluetooth converter. All of those sensors are Bluetooth in order to keep the price significantly lower.
Gotcha.
They just communicate through that one Wi-Fi box.
So they should be in the same room with it, and it's fine.
So do you have to have the gateway for the outdoor camera?
It's built into the camera.
It's
The
built
gateway
into
is
the camera.
only thing the gateway set talks to is the sensors. And like I said, you buy the gateway once because I doubt you're going to hit 50 sensors.
And I know I've talked to you before about your future plans, but down the road, you're hoping to not only be able to monitor the humidity and temperature, but I'm assuming you're hoping to be able to regulate it as well.
Yeah, well, and realistically, you kind of can now, but it's not completely designed to do it. And we will be continuing to adjust it and build the app to be stronger and be cooler as we go. But there's a spot in the app. It's Smart Scenarios. It's at the bottom. Basically, what you can do is you can click that and it'll say it's open-ended if-then statements. So if the sensor 1 reaches 72 degrees, turn on outlet 4.
Oh,
and
awesome.
That could be your heater. And then once that sensor reaches 78 degrees, turn off outlet 4, and then basically you have an on-off thermostat.
Do your smart plugs have timer features on them?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And then
So-
you can also regulate how they fail. So you can regulate all of this equipment to fail off as well.
That's the important. That's why everybody loves my Herbstat thermostats, because they fail off, whereas a lot of other thermostats will fail on.
But then depending on what you have, like if you have a room heater and winter's coming, and you know that you're going to be flickering your lights with potentially some ice storms or something, you might want that one to fail on.
Yeah.
But that's something that you can actually program into each one.
Well, and having the timer feature is great because if you can monitor, or just having the smart plug, if you can monitor your humidity from the other side of the world, you can go, oh, I need to turn my humidifier on for a minute. And just click it on and click it off.
And what's awesome too is look at what you guys are dealing with now with the potential of all the cold weather coming in. You can have these sensors in your room. You can have them turn on heaters. You can have them turn on fans. You can have them. You could have it be a backup for your air conditioning unit or your heating unit where this turns on the power to turn on your air conditioning unit, so it only does it at certain times. You really can automate a lot of it, and it's going to continue to get more and more customizable as we go. And eventually what you'll be able to do is just hit Bearded Dragon inside the app and it'll control it to a live data point in Australia. We're a ways out from that, but that's the goal. That's the end goal for this.
So Darren Watson said, I'm aware of your products because of this podcast, but so many don't know about your company. How can you become the industry standard? And I'm sure that's something that has crossed your mind.
Yeah.
And you have thought
Fuck
about.
Arcade. Never mind.
Be our voice.
Yeah, honestly, that's the best
Mhm.
thing that we can ask from everybody is if you've bought our bulbs and you've seen the changes in your animals, if you're utilizing any of our equipment and enjoy it, like go tell people, post about it, tag us. I can tell everybody how awesome it is. It's not nearly as good as when everybody else tells them how awesome it is.
I got myself kicked out of the reptile lighting group for posting my success story and then defending it because that one guy, I guess, that runs it.
I've tagged Ryan in several things like that before.
Yeah, I think he must work for one of the other companies.
Well, the company that straight up said that Ryan's bulbs couldn't exist, and then a month later, the bulb that Ryan has came out from them also.
Yeah.
That guy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do it all the time because I have customers. You know what I need to do? I need to make like a QR code that I can put on my table so people can just scan it and goes right to your website.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
And
when I sell cages, I sell a ton of cages with light fixtures already in them at shows. And I'm always telling people to buy your bulbs. I should just have Sean bring some to the show and put them on my table.
Yeah.
Dude, we
And-
could even work something out, especially
Yeah.
like let's
I'll
talk
message
to
you.
Erica. We have some affiliate
Yeah.
stuff we could, be doing with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I-
guys.
for the
I
record,
love
the
all
Reptile
the
Lighting
stuff.
Group isn't a fan of ours, just so you know.
Yeah, we
Which
know.
is funny
Yeah.
because actually Dr. Wonderlick and Dr. Baines are fans of ours.
They're
So-
actually, we talk to them regularly. And yeah, it's just
That's one of those groups that
warriors.
exists because a certain person made it. And then now any information that doesn't line up with their thoughts is
Yep.
wrong. So the name of the group seems like one of those, like, oh, that's good. And then you realize, nope, it's only controlled by one person, and they're going, no, we can't tell anybody else about anything else that exists.
Yeah, they kicked
Yep.
me the fuck out.
That
Yeah,
is
I
a very
believe
tired
one of my-
puppy.
One of my favorite comments I received was "read the room."
And I was
Yeah.
like, did you read the comments where she said that what we're doing is awesome and she supports us? Because are you not reading the room?
Oh,
Yeah.
or you have to have this certain amount of UVA, like the UVA spectrum, because we're missing like a small little section of the UVA spectrum.
So no, that's the
And-
only argument to the LED bulbs that exist. Period. Is that
I
one
know.
study was done that showed that it's possible that the regulation of overproduction of D3 it happens within a certain spectrum of the wavelengths between UVB and UVA, and our bulb doesn't have it where other bulbs do. But it was one study that I'm not really.
It wasn't a well done study, and there's a lot of holes in it. It's
Yeah.
what he's trying to politely
And it's
say,
one study.
and I'm
But
actually just calling it out. It's not there is a lot of discussion that needs to happen, but we also need evidence that that's not a harmful area, because there's also areas of UVB that we don't put into there. Why? Because it's terrestrial UVB, and that is bad for your animal. So we don't put it in non-terrestrial. So we don't put it in there. We also don't put UVC in there, which is also part of the UV spectrum, because it's harmful to your animals. There's a lot of studies on that.
There's one main light company out there that has a lot of fanboys, and if you don't get that light, and if you don't use that light, you don't like your animals, and your animal's going to die. That's basically the response you get every time something gets posted about something else. And like I said, what killed me was your bulb came out, and a certain person said that can't exist. That bulb is dangerous. It can't exist. And if it did exist, their company would already make it. And then like a month later, the fucking company came out with the same kind of bulb. I'm like, the fuck were you saying a month ago?
Yep.
So I just
Well, the problem is that it is true. There are some bulbs that look just like ours
yes,
that are dangerous.
all over Amazon.
And-
you can find them on Amazon all over the place.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they're not taking into consideration that there's also a whole bunch of like tube bulbs that look just like
Yep.
Zilla and Zoomeds and everything else, and Arcadia's bulbs
And
that
they're just as dangerous.
because you have to work with your manufacturer. You have to have your own standards. You have to put the testing into it. We've worked testing forever. I know more about UV testing than I ever wanted to know in my entire life. But it's important that you do have that information, and you're also willing to maintain a reputation, a relationship with your manufacturer. Because when we get somebody that says, "Hey, my bulb failed," we're like, "Nope, shouldn't have done that." Send it back to us, and then we talk to our manufacturer, and we send bulbs back all the time to have them look at, was it a chip, was it a driver, what is going on? Because if it doesn't meet our standards, we don't release it.
Well, yeah, and you
But
can just look
other
your
people do.
bulb. When you hold that bulb, you can tell that it is built different
Yeah.
than many other bulbs that are like that. Because Katie, before we had that, Katie did order a bulb very similar with a fixture and everything offline. And when we finally got your bulb, I looked at them like, they are not the same. They don't feel the same. They don't weigh the same. It's not the same bulb.
I drove a nail into a board with one of them.
And then
Yeah.
it turned back on and had perfect UV.
Yeah, that's on our Instagram. If anybody doesn't believe me and wants to watch it.
Look, I've had it on a sulcata that I've been growing here since we moved here a year and a half ago, and its shell is nice and round.
Talk
And
about
it is growing
it's
like
a
crazy.
piece of vegetable or something.
It is. They're just. I'm growing it. It's.
I mean,
There's nothing else you do with them. You just grow them. You throw food in there, and they eat a shit ton.
They do.
But it's not.
It's a potato.
It's not pyramiding. It's not. It doesn't look
No.
horrible. That UV light has been doing an amazing job. So yeah, it's. And then I'm very excited. I need to get a lot of the smart devices. I like the idea of all this being in one app, and being able to at any point in time. I'd like to be able to put the sensor like on the heat tape of a rack, just so I could go, okay, this rack is this temperature. I can tell it from here that it's this temperature, and put it into a smart plug that I can turn it off or on if I needed to, if something were to happen. Because as a person that owns reptiles, our biggest fear is house fires. Like we've seen it happen. We've had friends that have had it happen, and that's our biggest fear. And so anything that would let me reduce the chance of my house catching on fire, I'm all for.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had I'm gonna believe in airing dirty laundry. So we actually had a heat tape fail, and it was
2 different sets of heat tape fail at 2 different times about 3 weeks apart.
And they were catastrophic failures. It wasn't just like, oh, it's a little bit. Like I was changing the enclosures and I went, honey, this is smushy and it should be smushy.
Yeah, the PVC was sagging.
And because that's how hot it got. So we took down all of our enclosures, which they're heavy. They're not meant to be just taken down. And then we found that the heat tape just had a catastrophic failure. So what we ended up doing was making like a brace between the levels so that there's an air pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And the sensors now can go into there so that it's reading what's there. And I don't have to worry about, going out and then coming home, cleaning a snake cage, and it's hotter than sin in there.
Well, that's a lot of I don't know if this is what happened with yours. I'm saying I've seen a lot of people that have fires in their racks. Their rack companies don't recess their heat tape. And so a lot of times that it is rubbing against there and it's sitting directly on that. And that will, they're not made to do they're not made to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a tricky heat tape's a tricky thing is when we buy if you buy a rack, the odds of you checking that heat tape on a regular basis are pretty low. We kind of plug it in and go, it's good.
Yep.
So it would be nice to have something on there going, monitoring that temperature for you that you can just pull up and go, okay, no, we're good. And plus it shows graphs. You can go, oh, good. No, it stayed at this temperature. There were no giant spikes or anything. And
and all the the temperature and humidity sensors data log for up to a year.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to get some of those. I definitely want to get the humidity ones for these new skinks because when I hook them up, I'm like, I buy a mister for them, and I don't really have anything else.
We've actually put them in with our I'm pointing like you can see,
the tart frog
but our tart frog enclosure.
I do that all the time.
Right, it's over there. Just look right there. And that's actually how we test most of our products is we put them in with our spinulosus who beat the crap out of it. We put it in with our dart frogs because it's so gooey in there because it's just bioactive. And the frogs like to sit on that's how we found out that our in situ cameras are so great was because the frogs would just sit on it nonstop.
I buried it in the drainage layer of their enclosure and it grew moss over the top of it.
And then they would eat off of it. They would sit there.
And the tank is a 55-gallon planted tank. And in the corner that I could reach behind the couch where I'd feed them was right on top of the camera. So they started watching the camera like it was their totem. And that's where their food came from. So anytime I would pop open the camera to show people it shows, I'd be like, just trust me, there's going to be frogs looking at this. And I'd pop it open, there'd be like 4 frogs right there just looking at it.
It was kind of like Finding Nemo with shark face.
I know. I totally just did that in my head.
Yep. And then, and if there was once I opened it up and you couldn't see, and I'm like, no, just wait, keep looking. And then you could see it was like a Jurassic Park velociraptor eye behind a tree.
And Doc actually, our Mertens monitor, because we have the UV bulbs and everything, he sits right there in front of the camera and he puts out like his little stanky leg every now and then for it. And...
See, the only thing I worry about with using the camera in the tortoise barn is it's so far from the house. I may have to put a Wi-Fi extender on that corner of the house to get the Wi-Fi, but I would love to be able to see my tortoises here from 4 hours away at any point just to see, okay, no, they're good. Because
nuts. One of the things that's been really cool too is we've got a lot of species here that are very secretive and very shy. One of which is crocodile tagus, which don't come out. They're super cool. There's only 4 or 5 pairs of them in the U.S. And they're really, really cool. And we actually caught them. Well, I caught them on camera courting last week, which was really, really awesome to see.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. And because of the UVB bulbs, because it has that UVA, we're seeing the female out all the time now. And she knows her, flight radius. Like, if we're so close, then she's like, she's out. But she's willing to go and sit under that UVA and UVB despite us being in the room. it's not the heat. We put the heat on the other side. Like, it's just to sit underneath that UVA and UVB, and she will sit out. And so will our peacock monitors, actually. They'll sit out just to bask in that instead of our Frenchie is rolling around on the couch. Sorry. Instead of, just taking off the moment you walk into a room. They'll wait until you get to a certain point now because it's that imperative to them to absorb as much as possible.
So my zoology club at school has recently been introduced to webcams online where you can watch animals at different facilities and things like that. And they are obsessed. Like, I had one of the older kids pass me in the hallway the other day, and she was like, I checked on the bald eagle eggs at the nest in Louisiana the other day, and she still has the eggs. I'm like, they should hatch over Christmas break. So
The ones right here in Webster laid their eggs earlier this week.
did they?
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping to be able to bring some of that stuff on to be able to do that with it in the future as well.
I love it.
You just have to not do it in the nude.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, Earl's going to be our tester anyway with his Croc skink enclosure.
Oh God.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Y'all can see Earl.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see naked Earl.
Maybe that's why your wife didn't want the camera in the snake room.
She gets in there. She likes feeding.
I doubt it.
She really likes feeding the snakes.
Well,
if you don't feed snakes in the nude, you're not living.
We've actually unfortunately, we do have the cameras in our snakes room and stuff like that, and also just throughout the house because it's great. And when you have animals, it's nice to know, or kids. So we have them out, and at one point, I actually had to remind my husband that he can't just walk around in some of the rooms in like his boxer briefs or just
that
like
100%
make it to the wind because we have other people who can look at our cameras.
So you can share with your app. You can share your home. So let's say I'm going to be gone. We're going to be gone. We could have one of you guys watch the house for us and check on the animals and make sure everything's all good. And call a neighbor or something if it needed to happen. The problem is when like you give your nephew that access because he also takes care of the animals, and then while he's at his grandpa's house, there's no kids here, so the hell's the point of getting dressed?
And then you get a text message. And then you get a text message of, I can see in the camera.
Yeah.
Don't look at
I keep telling James that our kid, she's gonna need like therapy or something. I swear. I just
not for me. I wear clothes in the house.
Fucking hate putting clothes on if it's just the three of us.
Well,
Hey,
so
get it.
we're planning on building a reptile zoo at my high school. So I definitely would be interested in I'm going to try and get some VivTech bulbs for it. And I'll get some sensors and some lights for it. I definitely want to order some of those for it because it'd be. Oh God.
I love your dad. I'm so sorry.
I just like that
He's like
comment
this all
was
the
right
time.
after XXX18.online was blocked.
I know.
Yeah.
I also like that it's right after how can you become an industry standard?
Yeah.
Snake porn!
Nudity in the snake room.
Yep.
If there was just more nudity in the snake room.
This is where James gets it all right here.
All right, so we've gone over 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. So Erica, Ryan, if people want to get a hold of you and check out all of your amazing new products, what is the best way for them?
So all of our products are on VivTechProducts.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. I'm finally back on Facebook too.
Yes,
now.
you are.
Yeah. So I after having my whole Facebook for like 20 years just poof gone. But no, now we got it back. So you can find us there, and we have a TikTok, and hopefully this year we'll be kicking off YouTube and some other stuff too. So.
And there's our Frenchie who's also trying to say hello. Butters would like everybody to say no, he's here.
Yeah.
And also, if every week when I post this online, there's a link to it to VivTech every time. And there's a code. If anybody wants to buy a bulb, you can use Gumbo22 as a code to save 15% on your bulbs or anything else you order.
Or your smart tech, you can get money off of smart tech.
Are we gonna have to change that code for 2023 or no? Will it
that's an Erica thing.
That's I was gonna say that sounds like an Erica problem.
That's
She's
an Erica
walking into the other room.
Again, anybody listening, go check out our Facebook page for shirts and yoga pants and shoes and anything else I found that I could add into our shop. Check out our shop. All that money helps fund stuff that we do. And you can find us on the Reptile Gumbo podcast on Instagram, Facebook, at gmail.com. Don't forget, each week in December, we're still giving away. We have 2 more weeks in December. I think 2 more weeks in December. We have 2 more infrared temp guns that are going to be given away by Colossal Constrictors, the amazing folks over there. So all you got to do is look for the questions each week, comment on them, and you're put in for the giveaway. Yes, Darren Watson. There's still no Speedo for sale because I'd be afraid of who would buy it. I don't want to. I don't want to see. I don't want.
I'm
Right.
crying, McVeigh.
I don't want to see any of my friends in a Speedo.
I mean, it could be fun.
Nope, it couldn't. It couldn't. Ryan, hang around for 1 second. Everybody else, we will see y'all next week. Thanks for watching and good
Merry
night.
Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Merry Christmas. We will be back next week. That's right. My bad. We will be back in the first week of January.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be releasing some interviews from Bryan College Station show.
So be safe.
So goodbye.